Yeah, we all live, and hopefully y'all can hear me out there. Coming to y'all a little bit early this morning because, I really, truly am starting to love doing this man. It's crazy. I get up every day just dedicated to bring y'all the brand new news, man. Cause it's your boy, the Brando knows. And now that you know that the AGM Brando knows, I'm gonna start my show.
Sun rooftop, digging in the scene with the gangster leaning and we ain't coming down, see on my face that smile, see on my head that crown, I'm on the top of the world, talking to town, baby.
I moved up the hood that had the church on the corner where I sit and talk shit all day cause I wanna. And on top of that, wasn't none of y'all gonna do nothing but keep running your mouth and keep frontin'. Go ahead and say something. I'll wait. I ain't gonna wait till late, cause in a minute I'm escape. Cause there is no debate. No, it's not an option. You gotta keep cop watch.
Sun rooftop, digging in the scene with the gangster leaning and we ain't coming down, see on my face that smile, see on my...
These are facts. Yo, Ken, tell me where we from, baby.
I'm from 140th and Lenox. I'm from NFL. Up the block is 40 Wolves. Lou Simpson's on 142nd Cross Square. D. Ferg on number 8th Avenue. I don't see you around none of this. Not from none of that.
From none of that, homeboy. And if you don't believe my boy, Cameron, King Dill, solidify this for him, please.
If you didn't have strong dudes around him, you'd have had cats like the Lynch Mob. You'd have had cats like Preacher. You would have had cats like the 40 Wolves. You would have cats like Niggas for Life. Dudes who was really in the streets like that.
Hey, if you don't listen to anybody, listen to Mr. King Dill.
Go all the way. Block, baby, I'm back and I'm balls. And I'm off of that sauce. I'm getting money of course, but I'm never ever think of taking a loss. Shorty sipping that crystal. So shorty started buck wild. Shorty back and buck wild. So you know niggas dicks out. She taking them down. All the way down. She be taking them down. Go all the way.
All right, let's get into this.
Me and Eddie really did not get along
in real life. I did not know this.
Yeah. Like okay. we didn't get. But every single week before taping, we'd come together. Mm-hmm. We'd put our hands together. We'd bow and we pray before we go out there.
Two warriors who couldn't stand each other, praying together before battle. Every week for 4 years, Malcolm Jamal Warner and Eddie Griffin put aside their personal differences to fight a war most people didn't even know was happening.
There is a systematic effort to destroy every black male entertainer's image. They want us all to have an actress by a name.
For over a decade, Eddie Griffin has been screaming about Hollywood's war against black men who refuse to submit.
Whatever happened to integrity, man, huh? How many brothers got to wear?
Eddie exposed the systematic emasculation program, but nothing he predicted could have prepared him for what happened to his former co-star on July 20th, 2025.
The actor Malcolm Jamal Warner, widely known for starring in the hit TV sitcom The Cosby Show, has died.
When Eddie Griffin heard his old co-star was dead, he didn't post some generic RIP message. He dropped a bombshell on Instagram that exposed exactly what killed Malcolm Jamal Warner.
The actor Malcolm Jamal Warner, widely known for starring in the hit TV sitcom The Cosby Show, has died.
He wrote, "My heart is heavy today, for what the world lost was a father, a son, a poet, a musician, an actor, a teacher, a writer, a director, a friend, a warrior, that I had the pleasure of going to war with against the Hollywood machine, and sometimes with each other because that's what brothers do. But the love was and is always there. Eddie didn't say they worked in Hollywood. He said they went to war against it. That's not the language you use for show business disputes. That's military terminology. That's what you say when someone dies fighting an enemy. The war started during Malcolm and Eddie. Both men thought they were getting a platform to create positive black entertainment. Instead, they walked into a battlefield where every script was a fight. Every episode was resistance against a system designed to make them perform like trained monkeys.
So it was, for me, it was like going from a top university to junior college. Because I'm saying, look, we can actually be funny without doing the stereotypical stuff.
Right.
And no one was really interested in that route. They're like, we didn't bring you over here for that. This is what we do.
Malcolm wasn't describing creative differences. He was describing psychological warfare. They took America's favorite TV son and tried to force him to degrade himself for their entertainment. When he refused, the machine turned against him.
Even though we were at odds, what we both understood is we get to 100 episodes, we're going to have a sweet vacation. Ultimately, they cut us at 88 because they were tired. They were tired of me fighting with the writers, and then they were tired of Eddie's shenanigans.
88 episodes, just 12 away from generational wealth through syndication. They killed the show because Malcolm and Eddie wouldn't stay in their place. The machine doesn't just control your image, it controls your money, your future, your ability to build independent wealth. That's when both men learned the rules of engagement. You can fight, but you can't win. You can resist, but there's always a bigger weapon they can deploy. And if you become too dangerous, if you start exposing too much truth, the machine has a final solution. Eddie Griffin has been screaming about Hollywood's systematic destruction of black men for over a decade. His comedy specials weren't just jokes, they were intelligence reports from inside the war zone. This was Eddie exposing the systematic emasculation of black men in Hollywood. Every major black male star has worn a dress on screen. It's not coincidence, it's conditioning. Break down their masculinity, make them perform degradation, then reward them with money and fame. But Eddie's most chilling prediction came when he talked about Bill Cosby. Years before the allegations went mainstream, Eddie was warning that no black entertainer gets to leave Hollywood with their dignity intact. Eddie wasn't making predictions. He was reading the playbook. Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Every black man who achieved independent power and influence got hit with career-destroying scandals. The timing is never accidental.
Reason number one, why they came after Bill Cosby.
If a black man does something, it says, John Jones, blacklist, said black, black, black. Now, if a white man does it, it isn't white man Jones. It's just a man.
Eddie was exposing the media manipulation that creates different rules for black and white celebrities. When white stars face scandals, they're individuals. When black stars face the same issues, they become proof of racial stereotypes. This psychological warfare was designed to keep black entertainers compliant through fear. But Malcolm Jamal Warner stopped being afraid, and that's when the machine moved to its final phase. Something changed in Malcolm Jamal Warner during his final year. The man who had carefully navigated Hollywood politics for decades started speaking truth to power with reckless abandon. His Instagram became a weapon of war against the psychological programming Eddie had been exposing.
I am tired of running for shade. And aren't you tired of being hustled and played? And aren't we all tired of crying about how hard it is to be black in America, even if it looks like we've got it made?
This wasn't poetry. This was Malcolm directly calling out the systematic programming of black Americans. The music we're programmed to celebrate. He was exposing how the entertainment industry deliberately promotes degrading content to condition black audiences. Traits placed upon them by their captors. He was naming the puppet masters who control the narrative. The timing couldn't have been worse for Hollywood. With Diddy facing federal charges, with Jeffrey Epstein connections finally being exposed, with systematic corruption being investigated at the highest levels, Malcolm Jamal Warner was positioning himself as a credible witness to decades of psychological warfare. His final video shows a man who knew he was living on borrowed time.
You know, life is out here lifing, right? For me and for everybody else. But just wanted to remind you, as I remind myself, that no matter what's going on, there's always a reason to smile.
Malcolm was acknowledging that forces beyond his control were determining his fate. The forced positivity, the desperate attempt to find reasons to smile, the promise that I'll be back soon. This was a man saying goodbye without being able to say goodbye. 3 days later, he was dead in the waters off Costa Rica, officially ruled an accidental drowning. No witnesses, no foul play, just another tragic loss that permanently silenced a truth-teller who had become too dangerous to the machine. Eddie Griffin's warning about black entertainers never leaving the business clean wasn't theoretical. He was documenting a pattern that would eventually consume his friend, Malcolm Jamal Warner. Eddie wasn't just defending Bill Cosby. He was exposing the systematic timing and methodology behind character assassination campaigns targeting powerful black men in entertainment. In this explosive interview, Eddie methodically deconstructed the Cosby allegations, pointing out how they followed a predictable pattern designed to maximize psychological and financial damage. Eddie highlighted the suspicious timing, how decades-old accusations surfaced precisely when Cosby was at his peak influence, attempting to buy NBC and regain control over his creative legacy. He questioned the logic behind the accuser's stories, asking why women would voluntarily enter private hotel rooms with a married man whose family-focused public image was internationally known, then wait 30 years to report alleged assaults. But Eddie's real bombshell was connecting this to a broader systematic effort. He wasn't focused on Cosby's guilt or innocence. He was documenting how the entertainment machine deploys coordinated media campaigns to destroy black entertainers who become too independent, too wealthy, or too vocal about racial injustice. The 30-year delay wasn't accidental. It ensured the allegations would surface past the statute of limitations, making them impossible to prove or disprove legally while maximizing reputational damage. The pattern is always the same. Michael Jackson died while planning the comeback that would have given him unprecedented control over his music and legacy. Prince died just as he was fighting to regain ownership of his masters. Whitney Houston died at the height of renewed public interest in her story of industry abuse. And now, Malcolm Jamal Warner, a figure so beloved he was immune to typical character assassination, dies in a Costa Rica drowning accident, just as he was becoming most vocal about systematic psychological warfare against Black Americans. But Eddie saw this coming. He's been documenting this pattern for years, warning that the machine always has a final solution when reputation destruction fails.
You're not going to die clean.
I mean, everything that Bill Cosby has built up, the decades of work that he stood behind.
The man has, single-handedly, sent a bunch of brothers and sisters to college.
Malcolm Jamal Warner was building something too dangerous to ignore. His podcast, Not All Hood, challenged every stereotype the industry profits from. His Instagram poetry exposed the psychological programming Eddie had been warning about. His interviews connected entertainment industry racism to broader patterns of systematic oppression. Most dangerously, he was doing it with the credibility of Theo Huxtable. You can't destroy America's favorite TV son with typical smear campaigns. You can't isolate someone with his resume and connections. When character assassination won't work, when professional blacklisting fails, the machine moves to its final phase. 3 days after Malcolm Jamal Warner's body was pulled from Costa Rican waters, Eddie Griffin posted the tribute that confirmed every conspiracy theorist's worst fears. But it wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. My heart is heavy today. For what the world lost was a father, a son, a poet, a musician, an actor, a teacher, a writer, a director, a friend, a warrior that I had the pleasure of going to war with, against the Hollywood machine and sometimes with each other, because that's what brothers do. But the love was and is always there. Every word was military terminology. Malcolm wasn't an entertainer. He was a warrior. They didn't work together. They went to war. Hollywood wasn't their workplace. It was the Hollywood machine, the same term activists use for systematic oppression. This wasn't grief. This was confirmation. Eddie was telling everyone who understands the code that Malcolm died, fighting the same battle Eddie had been documenting for decades. The timing of Eddie's response was crucial. Most celebrity deaths get generic condolences that take hours or days to craft with publicists. Eddie's tribute went up immediately, raw and unfiltered, like someone who had been expecting this call for years. Malcolm had stopped picking his battles strategically. In his final months, he was fighting on all fronts, challenging systematic programming through his podcast, exposing psychological warfare through his Instagram poetry, connecting entertainment industry corruption to broader patterns of racial oppression.
An artist, to be a conscious artist of color, you're constantly having to pick your battles. And, at some point you have to, really decide what your boundaries are. What are the things that you undoubtedly stand for?
Malcolm had crossed the line from managed resistance to dangerous truth-telling. And Eddie Griffin's tribute confirmed that the machine responded exactly as Eddie had predicted for years. To understand Malcolm Jamal Warner's final transformation, you need to know about Michelle Thomas, the woman whose death in 1998 shaped every decision he made for the next 27 years. Michelle wasn't just another Hollywood romance. She was Malcolm's co-star, his moral anchor, and ultimately, his guide from beyond the grave. Michelle Thomas played Justine Phillips on The Cosby Show, Theo's sweet, intelligent girlfriend who represented everything positive about young black love on television. But behind the cameras, Michelle and Malcolm's real-life relationship became something deeper and more transformative than anything their characters experienced on screen. Michelle Thomas was born in Boston to Caribbean immigrant parents who instilled in her an unshakable moral foundation. She entered Hollywood with her values intact and refused to let the industry corrupt her spirit. While other young actresses were being pressured into degrading roles or exploitative situations, Michelle maintained her dignity. She chose projects carefully, spoke thoughtfully about representation, and never compromised her principles for fame or money. Malcolm fell in love not just with Michelle's beauty, but with her integrity. In an industry designed to break down young black talent, Michelle represented something rare, someone who could navigate Hollywood without losing herself. Their 5-year relationship became Malcolm's education in maintaining authenticity while building a career. When cancer struck Michelle at just 28 years old, Malcolm watched the love of his life fight with the same moral clarity she had brought to everything else. Even facing death, Michelle made what she called the highest choice, refusing to let fear or bitterness consume her final months. Malcolm was there when she took her last breath. Michelle's mother revealed that he literally climbed into the hospital bed to hold Michelle as she died. This wasn't celebrity grief. This was a man losing the person who had kept his soul intact in an industry designed to destroy it. For 27 years after Michelle's death, Malcolm used her memory as his moral GPS. Every career decision, every public statement, every moment of temptation was filtered through one question. What would Michelle have done? This wasn't just romantic nostalgia. It was a survival strategy in an industry that systematically corrupts black talent. But something changed in Malcolm's final year. The man who had spent decades carefully balancing Michelle's moral guidance with Hollywood pragmatism suddenly stopped being diplomatic. His final Instagram posts about being tired of running for shade represented Malcolm finally embracing the kind of uncompromising truth-telling that Michelle would have been proudest of. He stopped managing his resistance and started speaking with the moral clarity that had made Michelle Thomas too pure for Hollywood to corrupt, and ultimately too dangerous for the machine to let him live. He had made the highest choice Michelle would have been proud of, speaking truth regardless of consequences. But Eddie Griffin knew the price of that choice. His tribute wasn't just mourning a friend, it was documenting the execution of a warrior who refused to surrender in a war most people don't know exists. The conspiracy theorists who immediately questioned Malcolm's drowning aren't paranoid. They're pattern recognition experts who understand that in an industry where Diddy faces federal charges for decades of systematic abuse, where Jeffrey Epstein connections run deep through entertainment circles, where corruption is finally being exposed at the highest levels, the death of a credible witness is never really accidental. Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't die in a swimming accident. He was eliminated because he had become too dangerous to the machine he and Eddie had been fighting their entire careers. His final Instagram poetry about psychological warfare, his podcast challenging racial stereotypes, his interviews connecting entertainment racism to broader systematic oppression. All of it threatened the narrative control that keeps the machine running. Eddie Griffin's immediate, uncompromising tribute serves as both obituary and battle cry. By calling Malcolm a warrior who died fighting the Hollywood machine, he was confirming what many suspected but few dared say. The war is real, the casualties are mounting, and the machine will eliminate anyone who threatens its control over Black minds and Black narratives. In the end, Malcolm Jamal Warner's death proves Eddie Griffin's most chilling prediction. In Hollywood's systematic war against conscious Black entertainers, nobody leaves this business clean, and the truth-tellers who refuse to stay silent don't get to leave at all. The machine claimed another warrior, but Eddie's confirmation ensures that Malcolm's death won't be forgotten or dismissed as another tragic accident. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.
Ocasio-Cortez is being booed by her own supporters and labeled as a war criminal, Donald J. Trump just handed real Americans a $550 billion payday. And you heard that right, guys. You heard that right. While AOC's own party is turning on her, while her district is vandalizing her office, she's out here melting down on social media, trying to explain away her betrayal of the far left. President Trump just pulled off the largest trade victory in American history, and he did it for you. So, yeah, Trump is president, Biden is gone, and the American worker is finally winning again. But what you're about to see is more than just a political headline. This is a full-blown ideological collision between Trump's strategic pro-worker, America First doctrine and AOC's collapsing socialist fantasy that just got her torched by her own side. So in today's video, we're going to break down exactly how President Trump's $550 billion deal with Japan is flooding our economy with real jobs, real investment, and the real growth, while AOC gets humiliated by Ilhan Omar, dragged at town halls and exposed as a phony revolutionary. Now, stick with me, guys, because once you see how deep this collapse goes and how big Trump's win really is, you're going to understand why the left is panicking and why this moment could be the tipping point for 2026 and beyond. And I want you to answer one question in the comments. Who's really fighting for the working class? Is it Donald Trump or is it Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? So let's get into it. If you appreciate the daily news updates, hit the like button and subscribe. Let's start with what just happened in the Oval Office and why it may be remembered as the moment everything changed. President Donald J. Trump has officially secured a $550 billion trade agreement with Japan. Not $5 billion, not $50 billion, $550 billion. This is not a handshake. This isn't some symbolic press release to raise awareness. This is real money pouring into our country, guys. We're talking about real auto plants, real agricultural exports, and real jobs for real Americans. And you better believe that this is already being called the largest bilateral trade agreement in U.S. history. Now, while Trump was doing that, using smart leverage and strategic timing and economic patriotism to put our country first, what was AOC doing? We'll get to that in just a minute. But trust me, it is brutal. But first, you need to see what real leadership looks like. So this historic deal, it means that Japan is now opening its markets to U.S. automobiles, agricultural products, and energy exports like never before. Now, this includes a 15% tariff on key sectors, which sounds high until you realize that 90% of the profits flow right back into the United States. This is the Trump doctrine in action. Pressure, leverage, and results. There's no fluff, no retreat, just hard deals that serve the American worker. And remember, Trump doesn't talk about lifting up the middle class. He actually does it. Now, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of new jobs, not consulting jobs, not DEI coordinators, jobs that build things, jobs for welders, for mechanics, for steel workers, farmers, and electricians. Factories are coming back. Fields are expanding. Capital is being invested in our people, not being shipped overseas. And here's the contrast that no one in legacy media wants to admit. Trump just engineered a $550 billion windfall for working families, while AOC's own voters are now calling her a traitor to everything that she said that she once, stood for. Now, some of the biggest savings that I've ever seen from Medicare reviews come from people who didn't even know that they were overpaying. This is why I partnered with Chapter to help more people like that catch these hidden costs. Ed, he wrote in to say that he's saving $684 a year. That's nearly $60 a month on a fixed income. That makes a big difference. And Frances Latiro, she's saving $65 a month thanks to Chapter's guidance. This isn't fluff. This is real money. It's real savings and real help. Give our friends at Chapter a call right now. Phone number is down below, 909-563-8279, or hit them up on their website. I left a link for you in the pinned comment. You can go to askchapter.org/Ron and just ask for a free Medicare review. There's no pressure, just answers and possibly hundreds of dollars in your pocket. And so here's where it gets even better. This $550 billion deal, it's not just about exports. It's more than just exports, guys. It's about foreign companies pouring investment directly into American soil. Think about it. Japanese automakers, they're not just shipping us cars. They're building factories here in right-to-work states like Tennessee and Alabama. Anybody here watching from Tennessee or Alabama? Let me know where you're watching from. Now, we're talking about entire industrial corridors being revived in places that the coastal elite forgot even existed. President Trump, working alongside Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, pushed for a unique financing mechanism that guarantees Japanese funding for U.S.-based infrastructure and manufacturing. That means new factories, new suppliers, new jobs. It means high school graduates can walk into six-figure trades again. This means small towns come back to life, while the left is still trying to figure out how to cancel gas stoves and, getting rid of your gas water heater. You know what I mean here? Trump just brought a manufacturing renaissance to America. But while Trump was building, AOC was breaking. Now, let's go ahead and rewind to the vote that blew up AOC's standing with her own base. Okay, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, in a move that even critics admit was politically brilliant, introduced a bill to defund Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. Now, here's the trap. The far left hates Israel, but they hate MAGA even more. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she put them in a corner. Do you vote for a bill that aligns with your anti-Israel base, or do you oppose it just because it came from a MAGA Republican? AOC blinked. She voted against the bill. She sided with funding the Iron Dome, and the backlash, it was immediate and it was violent. Graffiti on her district office, saying AOC funds genocide in Gaza, red paint smeared on her gate, radical activists, her own voters, guys, calling her a war criminal at a town hall. She didn't get flack from conservatives. She got canceled by her own side. But it didn't stop there, because when Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Summer Lee all voted differently than AOC, and when Ilhan Omar retweeted posts attacking her own squad sister, it became clear that this wasn't just a bad vote. This was the beginning of AOC's exile from the very moment that she helped create, which is kind of wild. But I want to show you guys how this internal collapse played out in public, how AOC's social media defenses backfired, and why even the most diehard progressives are now calling her a fraud. Now, trust me, it gets even uglier from here. So what happened after AOC voted against defunding the Iron Dome? Her base snapped. That's right. This wasn't polite disagreement. This wasn't pushback on policy. This was outright rebellion. Radical activists, the same people who once treated AOC like a hero, defaced her Bronx office with red paint and a message that read, AOC funds genocide in Gaza. She got heckled and booed at a local town hall, called a war criminal to her face by the very people who once knocked doors for her. And the squad, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Summer Lee all voted for the amendment to strip Israel's funding, the amendment that AOC rejected. Let that sink in, guys. Even the radicals decided to take a stand, but AOC folded. Now, here's the key. This wasn't just about policy. This was a test of purity, and AOC failed. She claimed to be anti-war. She claimed to be standing for justice. She claimed to be the voice of the oppressed, right? But when it came time to actually take the vote that symbolized everything that her base demanded, she choked. And that brings us to her digital disaster. From the firestorm, AOC tried to do damage control, and the only way that she knows how to do it, a Twitter thread. That's right, guys. She posted this long defensive breakdown claiming Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment wouldn't actually stop the flow of munitions to Gaza. She insisted it was a symbolic gesture and accused her critics really of lying about her vote. But that only poured gasoline on the fire. She was rationed into oblivion, guys. Activists accused her of being a liberal Zionist tool. She was called a fraud, a coward, and even compared to John Fetterman, who many on the left now mock as a centrist sellout. One commentator put it perfectly. You got cooked so hard, you united the entire left against you. Even accounts with pride flags and free Palestine hashtags turned on her, saying that she sounded more like a Milquist toast centrist than the revolutionary that she pretended to be. Now, here's the part that nobody's talking about. AOC didn't just lose a vote. She didn't just lose support. She lost her identity as the face of the left. Now, while AOC was busy tweeting her way through a political implosion, President Trump was getting it done. He wasn't arguing over some symbolism. He wasn't pandering to activist purity tests. He was signing the most pro-American trade agreement since Reagan and reshaping the global playing field in favor of American workers. And what does AOC have to show for her revolution? Nothing. No revolution, no victories, no jobs, just hashtags and hecklers. So while Trump was brokering real economic power with Japan, AOC was scrambling to defend herself from the very same base that used to worship her. The contrast couldn't be any more clear. Trump's building factories, AOC spinning narratives. So let's be real, guys. For years, AOC sold herself as a movement, the bartender turned congresswoman, the underdog, the firebrand socialist who would fight for the little guy. But in the end, what did it really amount to? Sound bites, slogans, selfies. Trump, on the other hand, he just brought $550 billion in foreign investment. He dropped tariffs that make foreign countries beg to negotiate and handed the working class a real shot at a better future. This is substance versus spectacle. And the American people are finally seeing the difference. AOC gave you talking points. Trump gave you results. She gave you a performative brand of compassion, right up until it got a little bit uncomfortable. Well, Trump gave you patriotic, unapologetic action, even when the media screamed in his face. And here's where it really explodes. Because in just a second, I want to dive into this Democratic civil war that's now raging behind the scenes. Squad versus squad, woke versus woker, and AOC. She's now the moderate being eaten alive by the same beast that she helped to create. So let's go ahead and ask the question that nobody on the left wants to answer. What was AOC's movement, right? How has AOC's movement actually, more importantly, what has AOC's movement actually done for the working class? Can anybody answer that? Because when you strip away the TikToks, the performative speeches, the Vogue covers, and carefully crafted outrage threads, what's really left? There's no job creation, no wage growth, no infrastructure, no protection from foreign economic threats, just the illusion of rebellion, while Trump is out here winning trade battles and bringing home the money. So while AOC is worried about her image on social media, Trump is focused on your paycheck. He's cutting deals to get farmers paid, factories built, and families employed. She's out there arguing with anonymous Twitter activists over what it means to be a real leftist. You tell me, who's actually fighting for the working class? And so now the Democratic Party is turning on itself in full view of the public. This wasn't just AOC under fire. It's open rebellion inside the party. AOC versus Ilhan Omar, the squad splintered, progressives versus socialists, establishment versus extremists. They have no message, no unity, and no one behind the wheel. While Trump is executing a precise economic strategy to bring back American power, Democrats are running a political Hunger Games where the prize is who can out-radical the other. I mean, the same people who cheered defund the police are now calling AOC a Zionist, a Zionist war criminal because she didn't support Hamas strongly enough. It's ideological cannibalism at this point. And the leadership, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Kamala Harris, they're nowhere to be found. There's no vision, no discipline, just chaos. And in that vacuum, Trump is rising. But what's Trump doing with all of this momentum? He's not tweeting rage. He's not groveling for approval. He's building. Now, if you thought that the town hall heckling and the vandalism were bad, it is nothing compared to what came next. Because when Ilhan Omar, AOC's own squad sister, retweets posts attacking her, it's game over. This is not just disagreement. This is excommunication. Omar amplified a tweet highlighting that the 5 members who voted to defund the Iron Dome, herself, Rashida Tlaib, Summer Lee, Thomas Massey, and yes, even Marjorie Taylor Greene, but not AOC, not on that list, not even mentioned. That was intentional. That was a message. She was erased. But she was publicly also humiliated by the very same circle that made her famous. Think about that, guys. One viral retweet from Ilhan Omar, and AOC went from socialist icon to sellout in stilettos in the eyes of her own base. This isn't just a crack in the squad. It's civil war on the left. And AOC just got labeled a liberal Zionist pawn by the radicals that she once marched beside. So here's the terrifying part for the Democrats. AOC was supposed to be the radical. She was supposed to be the edge. Now she's the moderate. Now, if you don't openly call for the dismantling of Israel, you're labeled a traitor. If you support any defensive measures, even the ones that protected civilians, you're complicit in genocide. And the litmus tests are not stopping at Israel, guys. Next is going to be Palestine. It's going to be maybe capitalism next, then ICE, then the military, then private property, then the family unit. The Democrat base has been radicalized past the point of no return, and now they're purging their own for not being radical enough. This is the natural result of the ideological monster that they created. And AOC is now leading. She's leading the way, and unfortunately, she's learning the hard way. When you feed the mob, eventually the mob turns on you too. But while the Democrat base is eating its own, President Trump is offering the one thing that voters have not felt in years: certainty, strength, and direction. So while the left obsesses over pronouns and purity tests, Trump is playing the long game and winning. This Japan deal here, it's not just a cash injection. It's part of a broader economic doctrine that the media still refuses to admit is actually working. Here's how it goes. Step 1, impose bold tariffs to reestablish leverage. Step 2, let foreign markets panic and negotiate. Step 3, trade a few tariff points for market access and come out with billions in American gains. And that's exactly what happened. Trump started high, 25%, even 30% threats on auto imports, and then settled at 15%. But only after Japan gave America everything it wanted: job creation, direct foreign investment, full market access for American agriculture and energy. It's classic Trump, hardball with purpose. And now Europe, Canada, Mexico, they're all asking how to get in on Trump's 15% terms after spending years mocking the very tariffs that they're now chasing. Because they finally realized this is the new standard, Trump standard. So yes, let's not forget about the real target of this deal. Japan benefits. Yes, America wins, but the real message was sent straight across the Pacific to Beijing. I mean, you want access to the U.S. market? You want to sell your goods here? If you want to do all those things, you better start investing here, respecting our workers and playing by our rules, or you're going to be watching Japan and Europe eat your lunch. Trump didn't need to give a press conference. The deal itself was the warning, and China knows it. This is America leading, not begging. This is the economic dominance without compromise here. And while the Biden administration once tried to appease and bribe our adversaries, President Trump is setting the rules and forcing the world to play by them. So what we're witnessing here right now is the rebirth of the American worker. Under President Donald J. Trump's leadership, Made in America, it's not just a slogan, it's a national mission. Factories are coming back. Foreign companies are bringing supply chains home. Jobs are being created in Alabama, in Ohio, and in Pennsylvania. They're not being outsourced to Beijing or buried under bureaucratic ESG mandates. This isn't theoretical, guys. This is real. Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, they're now building more in America than ever before because President Trump made it clear. If you want to sell to Americans, you better hire Americans. And here's the beauty of it. He's not doing it with fear. He's doing it with strength, strategy, and vision. That is the Trump doctrine. Build here, invest here, grow here. Now, if you contrast that with AOC, who couldn't even hold her coalition together long enough to survive a symbolic vote, who talks about helping the working class while spending her time defending genocidal regimes and chasing clout online. So we have to ask the question, we got to ask the question that you really have to answer, really. Who's really standing up for the working class, right? The president who just brought home $550 billion, revived U.S. manufacturing and handed real Americans a second shot at prosperity? Or is it the congresswoman who got booed out of her own town hall, vandalized by her own voters, and silenced by the same radicals who once called her the queen? Because this is no longer just about politics. This is about survival. AOC wanted to destroy the system. Trump, he's rebuilding it for you. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you with this. Do you want to live in a country built by the people or burned down by ideologues? Do you want factories or do you want flash mobs? Paychecks or purity tests? Drop your thoughts down below, guys. Who's fighting for you? President Donald J. Trump or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Let me know in the comments. Oh, and if you're as fired up as I am watching this shift happen in real time, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you do not miss what's coming next, because the collapse of the left, it's just begun, and America's comeback, it's already underway.
Holy smokus, it ain't no jokes. Ripple CEO just gave a massive warning. The president is going to the Fed, and Jim Cramer just flipped. Hello, beautiful people. Shalom, moneymaker. So XRP this morning just dropped under $3. To those who thought it would never happen again, here it happened again. Question is this the last time that it happens, or are we going to see continued volatility going forward? We'll try to answer that. All I ask from you is that you give me a beautiful smile to send out those good vibes. Smishity smash that like button because Thursday likes are for free. Don't say I don't spoil you. And let's get into it. So currently XRP is at $3.05, down minus 4% on the day. It was very interesting. I took the night off last night. I was outside all day and it was so hot. I told my wife in the middle, we gotta go to the air conditioning. It was so the perspiration right in the air was so high, right? But anywho, we dropped down yesterday to 3.5 and then we rallied, right? This also, it was coinciding with Bitcoin. It dropped all the way to 117, rallied all the way back to 119 during the night, but then pulled down all the way back to 117. Now we're seeing you could call it a little comeback. The market is very, I wouldn't call it, well, it is volatile right now, but it's not like crazy volatile. It's not like 20% movements, in an hour. We're not seeing that, but we are seeing 3, 4, 5% movements in the hour, right? So we saw XRP drop to 296 and then come up about 3% in 14 minutes. So there are still movements that are happening, and it will be interesting to see where the potential movements here for XRP go. I had an alarm to wake up, but I woke up early today because I went to sleep early. So it will be interesting to see where XRP moves from here. Again, XRP has relieved a lot of the pressure. We were talking about how XRP would not live on the top of the stochastic RSI for too long, right? Eventually, it would come back down. And we were like, okay, when is it going to come down? Is it going to come down from 5 to 4, or will it come down from 3.5 to 3 something or 2.8? Well, the answer was from 3.6 to 3 or 2 point something, right? And Bitcoin, by the way, is almost got to the bottom of the stochastic RSI. So this is interesting, right? Does the market start flipping once Bitcoin gets to the bottom here? That could be a catalyst for the pullback. Now, Ethereum also, hit the 3,800 and then seen 3 red days, and Bitcoin dominance continues to rise. So after we had the massive pullback on Bitcoin dominance, right, and we saw Bitcoin dominance come down there, now we're seeing Bitcoin dominance after that one green day that should have been probably the signal that we would see a little bit of an altcoin pullback. Now we're seeing the Bitcoin dominance recover here. And similar to here, when we saw it recover, after that, there was a long consolidation. So maybe the market will calm down a little bit, and it will be very interesting to see potentially where the price action for XRP and for the rest of the altcoin market goes from here. Right? It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Does Bitcoin, recover back to 120, or do we see this, continuation of this up and down and up and down? Because right now we're in a situation where Bitcoin goes up a little bit, altcoins are going up a little bit. Bitcoin moves down, altcoins are pulling back significantly. So that's currently the situation that we are fielding, right? So we'll see how this plays out, but it will be a very interesting 48 hours, even the next week, going into the Fed decision in 6 days from now, which we got a 97.9 probability of the Fed keeping interest rates where they are. And it all depends on what he says. Now, we do got the president going to visit the Federal Reserve tomorrow. Maybe he's gonna talk to the Fed chairman there and have a close conversation, a 4-eye conversation with him, and talk to him about what he thinks that needs to happen. Does the Fed have to listen? No, right? And so high probability nothing's going to change here. Since I've been covering this these probabilities are always right, the month-to-month ones. The yearly ones, not so much, but the month-to-month ones, as we get closer and we have the CPI data and we have the PCE data and we have the job reports, the probabilities are pretty spot on. So that will be interesting to see, if it's correct again or not. Again, not every single time things play out the way they should. And that's why I'll never tell you to buy, to sell, or to hold, because I don't know what the market is going to do day to day, week to week. Of course, not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. Before we get to Brad's warning, I want to talk about something positive that Brad tweeted, the CEO of Ripple. He says, I see why am I in the midst of all the regulatory goodness last Friday. Blue Chip ranked RLUSD as the #1 most trusted stablecoin in the market, right? This was about a week ago. I missed this, but Brad brought it to my attention. Actually, I think I sent it to myself. I forgot to talk about it. There's lots to talk about sometimes. And we are seeing you could call it the parabolic movement of the word stablecoin, right, in the crypto market, because the US government understands that stablecoins will be buying US treasuries. And so that will be very, very beneficial for the US. And so that's why they're pushing it so heavily. I put the video, a clip from the Bitcoin conference where there was many regulators from Washington, and everybody was stablecoin, right? Everybody was talking about stablecoins. And so although Ripple is still a small portion, next to Circle and Tether, it's gaining steam, it's gaining momentum. And I think that Ripple has a lot of friends in the right places. And that would be potentially very beneficial to get Ripple forward. We talked about the Goldman Sachs partnering with BNY Mellon to transform 7.1 money market fund with crypto. We know that BNY has already partnered with Ripple, right? So we're seeing more and more things that are getting connected, here, there, pieces that are coming together. Their banking license, buying Hidden Road, maybe making more acquisitions, right? Brad's talked about that they're looking for more acquisitions. So we'll see how can they grow the Ripple, and then as a result of that, potentially grow the amount of traffic that is seen on XRPL and potentially the usage of XRP, and maybe that will help the price of XRP. We will see, right? So now I want to talk about something that I warn about every single video, but Brad is now warning it again. We are seeing an uptick in the scams and the scams video. Like clockwork with success and market rallies, scammers ramp up their attacks on the crypto community. Please be aware of the latest scam targeting the XRP family on YouTube and impersonating Ripple's official's account. We will keep reporting these. Please do the same. As always, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? This came from Ripple, and then Brad retweeted it. I warn every single video that I will never contact you on social media asking you to sign up to anything or to send me any money. If you see a video that looks like me on these platforms, it's not me. Instagram, TikTok, what other is? Facebook. I'm not posting there. I only have the YouTube where I'm posting my videos, and sometimes on Twitter. Once in a while, I tried it for a while and it stopped because I wanted to focus just on YouTube. I'm not very good at Twitter. As you've noticed, those who follow me, I don't tweet that much. But you can follow me if you want at MakerLev. It's more for research purposes. And be careful out there. Make sure you don't click on any links. I just saw an article about old people getting calls that sound like their family members. People are using AI. They're finding out who their family members are and then finding them on social media, right? And taking their voices and then calling them up and telling them they were in an accident. They need to send money. And the old people are sending money because they're, you're old, you don't think, and you're in stress and you send money. So there can be all kinds of scams out there. If you ever get a call or a text from an exchange or something, always hang up. Say, okay, I'm going to call back. I'm going to go through the the website or go through the services, and I'll follow up with this, because the scammers, they can mimic, they can spoof, and so you have to be very, very careful out there. This is like a PSA about this. I try every video, but I know that if we do get to the banana zone, it's going to get more and more prominent. And AI, even back like 2-3 years ago, there was already AI mimicking voices. So they might even like call you up on the phone and it sounds like me, but it's not me. Okay, I'm not doing any of those things. I try to say it every single video. This is a little bit more explanatory about this, but I'll continue to say it every single video, even if you skip over those parts. I know some of you do, because you're sick of me hearing it. But if there's just one new person that hears it and doesn't fall into the scam, then it's good, right? So will be very, very interesting to see what happens here for XRP today. Can it recover? Can the crypto market put its head a little bit above water today after very, very good movements, especially for XRP? Remember, XRP did move, from the low here at 191. It did move 91% in 26 days. And when an asset that is number 3 on the market cap list, right, 180 billion, when it moves about 100% almost in 30 days, now it's pulled back, but that's a significant movement for an asset like that. And I know that back in December, right, it moved from 50 cents all the way to 3, but it was at 50 cents. So it was at a lot lower market cap back then. So now it's at a higher market cap. Of course, it can still go up significantly, but there's going to be some pullbacks. There's going to be some profit taking. There's going to be a lot of liquidations. You can see 15 million just in the last hour on the long got liquidated there. And if we go out 24 hours, $106 million got liquidated on the long. Almost $1 billion liquidated in the last 24 hours. 314,000 traders were liquidated. So a lot of liquidations, and people were leveraging up because it makes sense. Things are going up. So you're going to, I'm going to leverage the upside. I'm going to make a lot of money. But we've learned this before, that the market can be tricky, and there's always going to be pullbacks. I saw something that someone wrote, that he said, we know that we're not yet in the parabolic movements, right? Because when we have parabolic movements, people are happy about pullbacks, and now people are sad about pullbacks and are afraid and panic selling. I don't know about that, if people are for sure panic selling, but there is a little bit more fear than usual, I think. But again, we're up a lot. Of course, I don't want, this to happen, right? But that's always a possibility. I've told you this before. I always keep in the back of my head that things like this can happen. And if we get back to 226, I don't know. I have to think. Maybe I'm gonna, do some moves there, positive moves, because I don't think that the bull market is over, or we hit the high at 120. I don't think that. We got. I forgot about this. Where is Jim? I wanted to start with Jim. I forgot about him. Jim Cramer just flipped. Maybe that's why the crypto market dropped, because Jim became positive on crypto. On CNBC, Cramer said, buy some Bitcoin and Ethereum, calling it a hedge against U.S. debt. He's even holding crypto as a legacy play for his kids. Let's take a listen. What do you have to say? Whoops, I can't hear anything. Can you hear something? Could you hear? My ear thing is not connected. Technical difficulty time. I still cannot hear. Oh no, we can't hear anything. Okay, I don't know what's happened. Desktop audio is not working. I'll fix that. But you heard it says here what he said. So you got the gist. Sometimes people say that if Jim is positive on something, it means run to the hills. Not every single time. I've seen it places where Jim has been positive on things and they go up, and he has been right about the crypto market sometimes, but he has been very flippity floppity on crypto. When crypto's doing good, he's positive about crypto. When crypto's pulling back, he's like, oh, thank God I didn't do this. Thank God I didn't do that. He's a flippity floppeter, right? That's why he's been successful on TV, because, when things are doing good, he's, oh, look, I did good. And when things, go down, he pushes it away, right? Like he was saying to buy something that crashed in 2008, right? It was Bears, something like that. Yeah, famously. When you do a job like that on TV and you're talking about lots of stuff, it's very hard to get everything right. And that's why he had a bad streak. So people like opened the inverse Kramer and were, making fun of him. But, it's very hard for a long period of time to be right about everything, right? So we shall see what happens today in the crypto market. Again, as always, not financial advice, always do your own due diligence before you decide to invest. Remember,
value in all of these different CBDC documents and in their seminar. BIS Innovation Hub projects, 25 projects ongoing, and they have 18 that are concluded. The majority of them revolve around CBDCs. I've shown how many of them are technically the XRP ledger. I'm going through them one by one right now to show you that literally anyone there that is talking about the CBDCs is literally the XRP ledger. Any project there. So that's Project Imbridge, Project Agora, Project Mariana. I've shown those 3 projects being built on a unified ledger, shared ledger, common CBDC platform. That's the XRP ledger. I've shown that in my videos already. I encourage you to watch those videos if you haven't watched them. And now today, like I said, I'm going to talk to you about Project Dunbar. Now, that being said, Quant is the interoperability solution for the BIS. Quant is an operating system that allows all of the legacy systems that exist today. So those are systems that cannot speak to blockchain. It allows all of those systems to connect into blockchain and build what are called multi-chain applications. MDAP. Only Quant does that. And so Quant is the interoperability solution. It is the Microsoft Windows for the 4th Industrial Revolution. It is the Microsoft Windows for the blockchain and AI age. But Quant is not the Finternet. Quant is not the unified ledger. It is not the shared ledger, and it is not the regulated liability network. But it plays an absolute crucial role for the unified ledger Internet of Value, because again, it allows all the systems that exist today to connect into multiple blockchains, multiple DLTs, and like I said, build multi-chain applications. One of those blockchains is technically the unified ledger, the XRP ledger, that Quant allows the whole world to connect into. So I just want to make that clear. Quant plays a huge role with the BIS, but Quant over ledger is not the Finternet. It is not the unified ledger a lot of the QNT community believes. I'm a huge fan of Quant. If you've watched my Quant videos, just go and watch my playlist on YouTube. I spent over 4,000 or 5,000 hours researching Quant. Literally nothing bigger than Quant. It's the Internet of Trust. With time, that might be a bit bigger than the Internet of Value, which is XRP. But I'm a huge fan of Quant. Again, if you've watched my videos, anybody that's watched my videos has said this guy has done a lot of research on Quant. But I encourage you to check out my playlist, Quant Overledger, QNT token. It's time for people to stop sleeping on that project. It is not a joke. When I see people screaming, "Oh, gold and Bitcoin," it really breaks my heart. Honestly, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. You have to do your own research. This is for entertainment purposes only. But when people are screaming about Bitcoin, talking like it's the best asset ever, that something's wrong, because Bitcoin is currently about 1,500 times more expensive than XDC. It is approximately 1,500 to 1,200 to 1,500 times more expensive than QNT token. It is approximately 12 times more expensive than XRP. So I just wanted to explain that. You guys really have to look into Quant, QNT. It's not a joke. The train might be leaving, the boat and the train, everything's leaving. I think everything's leaving soon. And I think we're going into a massive utility cycle here. It's just something's got to give eventually. Utility's got to kick in, I think. So again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor, just giving my opinion for entertainment purposes only. So Project Dunbar here. Oh, before I forget, guys, please like and subscribe. It means the world to me. It really helps my channel. And I would really appreciate if you like and subscribe. If you can do that, awesome. If you can't, I hope you enjoyed the video anyways. So Project Dunbar here. International settlement using multi-CBDCs. We're hearing that multi-CBDC platform again here. Right here, Project Dunbar explores how a common platform for multiple CBDC, multiple central bank digital currencies, exact same description as Enbridge, and literally the exact same description as Agora, Project Agora. Isn't that interesting? Could enable cheaper, faster, and safer cross-border payments. So they're talking about a
This is the mob boss who quietly owns all of New York. No mugshots, no trials, no news coverage. Just a quiet empire of real estate, private security, and offshore trusts. All hidden behind shell companies and luxury front groups. He doesn't run the streets, he owns the buildings above them, and he makes the old five families look like amateurs. But to understand how this silent king came to control the most powerful city in the world, we need to look at the richest mob bosses New York has ever produced, starting with the one who turned a butcher shop into a billion-dollar black market. 10. Joseph, Joe the Butcher Massino. He looked like your neighborhood butcher, stocky building, thick Bronx accent, always wiping his hands on a red striped apron. But what Joe Massino was really carving up wasn't meat. It was New York itself. Massino was the last man to officially lead the Bonanno family, the same crime family that once sat at the highest table in La Cosa Nostra. But unlike the flashy dons who came before him, Massino didn't wear gold chains or drive sports cars. He built his empire behind the counter of a meat shop, and that's where he did his real butchering. What made Massino terrifying wasn't how loud he was, it was how quiet he stayed. His meatpacking operation looked legit, complete with USDA signs and refrigerated trucks. But hidden inside the crates of pork shoulders and beef slabs were bricks of heroin that had been trafficked across the globe. Massino wasn't moving meat. He was feeding New York's underground addiction with shipments that came in faster than the cops could track. By the late 80s, the butcher shop was just a front. Massino was secretly overseeing heroin routes from Sicily, running high-stakes gambling rings in the Bronx, and shaking down entire restaurant districts. And here's the real kicker. Every single dime was laundered through corner delis and pizzerias, all cash-heavy, family-owned, and untraceable. He pulled in over $10 million a year, but his tax returns listed just $42,000 in income, most of it from food service. Meanwhile, his lieutenants were buying properties in Queens with duffel bags of cash, while his competitors were either falling in line or disappearing entirely. The FBI didn't know what to charge him with for years, because everyone was too scared to flip. Even when wiretaps picked up whispers of the butcher, no one dared say his name. He had turned the Bonanno family into a shadow corporation, where silence was enforced more brutally than loyalty. Eventually, Massino was caught. But unlike other bosses, he didn't go down swinging. He became the first head of a major crime family to flip, cutting a deal so he could avoid the death penalty. His betrayal shocked the mafia world to its core, but it also revealed something deeper. Massino didn't care about honor, he cared about control. He ran the streets like a business, right down to the blood. But the next boss didn't need a butcher shop, he didn't even look like a threat. Because when he disappeared into his own mind, the FBI lost him for decades. 9. Vincent Chin Gigante. He walked the streets in a bathrobe, shuffled aimlessly through Greenwich Village, muttered to himself, slurred his speech, and for decades, the FBI believed he was insane. But Vincent Chin Gigante wasn't crazy, he was calculating. And the robe, that was just camouflage. As boss of the Genovese family, the most powerful crime syndicate in New York, Gigante pulled off one of the greatest deception operations in mafia history. While other mob bosses flaunted wealth and strutted through clubs, Chin stayed inside. He made his crew whisper his name. He refused to use phones. And when surveillance got too close, he simply put on a show. He'd stumble barefoot to church, yell at mailboxes, take long showers in the middle of the sidewalk. Even his family swore he was mentally unwell. Doctors wrote letters, priests testified, psychiatrists defended him. It worked. The FBI spent decades chasing a man they believed wasn't competent to stand trial. But behind that vacant stare was a man moving hundreds of millions through New York's underworld. Chin ran extortion rackets in every borough, skimmed off construction unions, controlled high-stakes gambling, and shook down real estate developers from Midtown to the Bronx. At one point, his influence stretched so far that even judges, police officers, and business tycoons feared crossing him, not because he shouted, but because he didn't. Gigante enforced power like a ghost. Crews didn't talk. Orders came without paper trails, and when someone needed to be silenced, they vanished without a sound. Every Genovese associate operated under strict rules. No drugs, no media, no flamboyance. It was mafia minimalism, and it worked. By the late 80s, Chin was quietly raking in over $100 million per year. And yet, federal agents couldn't even get him into a courtroom. For 7 years, he dodged indictment by claiming he was mentally unfit. Even when they had tapes, witnesses, and financial records, he just shuffled into court in a hospital gown and stared blankly at the floor. It was the perfect mask. When he was finally convicted in 1997, prosecutors revealed the truth. Chin had been perfectly sane the entire time. He was secretly holding leadership meetings in the basement of his mother's house, issuing orders through intermediaries and laundering money through cash-heavy Italian bakeries, plumbing businesses, and church donations. It was never about theatrics. It was about dominance. Chin turned his life into a theater of madness, while ruling the mafia with surgical precision. The robe wasn't weakness. It was camouflage. But while Chin hid in plain sight, the next boss didn't just vanish from the streets. He vanished into boardrooms, brokerage firms, and bank vaults. Because Michelle Big Mike Miranda didn't need to act crazy, he used Wall Street to disappear completely. 8. Michelle Big Mike Miranda. He never carried a gun. He didn't bark orders from smoky restaurants. And you'd never catch his name in the tabloids. But Michelle Big Mike Miranda may have owned more of New York City than any mob boss before him. Because while others ran rackets from the streets, Big Mike did it from behind construction permits, zoning boards, and union contracts. As the quiet financial architect of the Genovese family's post-war empire, Miranda understood one thing better than anyone. Crime was best committed through paperwork. He embedded himself in Midtown Manhattan's booming skyline, not by strong-arming builders, but by becoming one. His method was surgical. He set up dozens of shell companies across New York, plumbing firms, electrical subcontractors, equipment rental outfits, then used fake names and frontmen to bid on city-funded development deals. And once those contracts were approved, he rerouted the money back into the family's accounts through inflated invoices, rigged payrolls, and phantom workers on union rosters. Entire buildings went up with mob money poured into their foundations. From Midtown office towers to outer borough housing projects, Big Mike had a financial stake in it all. But his name never appeared on a single blueprint. What made Miranda so dangerous wasn't brutality, it was invisibility. He never raised his voice, never left a paper trail, and never took credit. He ran fake construction unions that controlled labor costs across 5 boroughs. He skimmed millions off government programs meant for urban renewal, and when the FBI finally noticed the pattern, the companies were gone. Dissolved. Renamed. Absorbed into a new shell before they could even get a subpoena out. He'd buried his fortune in real estate trusts, offshore accounts, and international brokerage firms. At his peak, Miranda had financial reach from Queens to Zurich. Some agents even believed he had controlling interest in buildings directly across from federal courthouses. But the most dangerous part, his deals weren't just criminal, they were legal enough to survive in daylight. Inspectors were paid off, paperwork was tight. Banks signed off without blinking, and no jury could convict a man whose name was never on the deed. By the time Miranda died in 1973, his financial empire had helped fund the Genovese family's rise to legendary status. No flashy headlines, no dramatic trials, just silent dominance built into the steel beams of Manhattan's skyline. But the next boss didn't just steal money, he bought silence. Judges, prosecutors, even federal snitches all turned into ghosts the moment they crossed him. 7. Carmine Jr. Persico. He was locked in a federal prison cell. He hadn't touched a sidewalk in years. But Carmine Jr. Persico still ran one of the most powerful crime families in New York, from solitary confinement. For over 3 decades, Persico controlled the Colombo family with nothing but coded messages, corrupt lawyers, and absolute loyalty. And unlike most mob bosses who faded after sentencing, Junior only grew more dangerous the longer he stayed behind bars. His reach extended from Manhattan's sanitation routes to the longshoremen on Brooklyn's docks. He didn't just skim off the top. He owned the pipelines. Entire trucking contracts, construction deals, and waterfront shipments flowed through shell companies handpicked by Persico himself. And if anyone challenged the flow, they were erased quietly and permanently. But what made Persico untouchable wasn't fear, it was infrastructure. He embedded his loyalists in powerful union positions, banking boards, and contracting firms across the city. Even behind glass and concrete, he could greenlight hits, settle disputes, and move millions, all with a word passed through a lawyer or a cousin visiting for lunch. The FBI called it one of the most stubborn crime dynasties in American history. In 1986, when Junior was sentenced to 139 years for murder, racketeering, and extortion, agents expected the Colombo family to splinter. It didn't. If anything, it calcified because Junior had prepared for war. He even refused to step down, naming himself boss for life and daring any rival to challenge it. And they didn't, not successfully. Inside his prison empire, Persico maintained an iron command. Every piece of contraband, every order, every coded message ran through his network. Prison guards were bought. Lawyers carried notes hidden in legal pads. And outside, lieutenants collected payments from everything from loan sharking to real estate flips. At its peak, even while in lockdown, Persico's operation made over $50 million a year. The city's garbage system? He had people inside. The shipping terminals? Controlled. Concrete for luxury condos in Manhattan, paid for in cash, then laundered through a Colombo-backed cement firm. He didn't need to lift a finger, and he never lost a soldier to another family. But the darkest part of Persico's reign was its longevity. He kept his power through the crack era, the fall of the 5 families, the death of old bosses, and 3 separate attempts by the FBI to dismantle his command chain. None of it worked. Junior ruled until his death in 2019, from behind prison walls. But the next mobster didn't need a prison cell to flex power, because the cops never caught him. He walked through Manhattan's elite circles like a senator and bought his way into the heart of government. 6th, Frank Costello. He wasn't just another mob boss. He was the man who told the mob what politics should look like. Frank Costello wasn't feared like a hitman or flashy like a capo. He didn't need to be. They called him the Prime Minister of the Mafia, because when senators wanted re-election, judges needed appointments, or police brass wanted to climb the ranks, they came to him. And in 20th century New York, nothing moved unless Costello let it. Costello understood power in a way few mobsters ever did. While other bosses built their empires on violence, Costello built his on access. He controlled gambling, bootlegging, and slot machines across the 5 boroughs, but the real money came from what he controlled above it, the men in suits who let it all slide. He allegedly had direct lines to state governors. He picked judges like pieces off a board. Entire police precincts received their orders from men who answered to him, not the mayor. And while J. Edgar Hoover was busy denying the mafia even existed, Costello was hosting private dinners for congressmen in upper Manhattan clubs. His biggest play? The judiciary. In the 1940s and 50s, Costello helped install corrupt judges across multiple boroughs, ensuring favorable rulings for his allies and harsh ones for enemies. Prosecutors would suddenly drop cases, arrest warrants vanished, and entire neighborhoods operated as if law had a price tag, and Costello was the cashier. He wasn't just insulated, he was worshipped. Even the New York Times once described him as a gentleman racketeer. He wore tailored suits, spoke with polish, and moved like a diplomat. If a city commissioner crossed him, they'd find themselves reassigned or buried in political scandal a week later. If a newspaper ran the wrong headline, ad dollars disappeared. At one point, his reach was so vast, FBI agents believed Costello had direct connections to the White House. Rumors swirled that President Roosevelt himself had once accepted campaign help from Costello's allies in New York. While no proof ever surfaced, what did emerge was this. Costello had a private phone line, and his number sat in more than one Washington address book. But power invites enemies. When rival boss Vito Genovese tried to muscle him out, Costello survived a bullet to the head in 1957 and calmly walked away. He retired shortly after, not in shame, but with the respect of a city that knew exactly who had really been in charge. Frank Costello didn't run rackets, he ran the men who regulated them, and his empire didn't collapse when he left it. It transferred quietly, through back channels, to the next generation of mobsters who understood one thing. In New York, the real game wasn't blood, it was favor. But while Costello ran politics, the next name ran luxury like a cartel. He didn't just collect money, he controlled loyalty with Rolexes, Ferraris, and five-star blood pacts. Agnello della Croce. He didn't talk much, he didn't dress loud, and unlike the others, he didn't need to raise his voice to rule a room. Agnello della Croce, known simply as Mr. Neil, was the quiet architect of the Gambino crime family's most explosive era. As underboss, he sat just beneath Paul Castellano, but his true legacy came not from his title, but from who worshipped him, John Gotti, the man who would later take over the entire family. But Della Croce wasn't some aging mentor playing consigliere in the shadows. He was the heart of the operation. For decades, while Castellano played businessman, Della Croce commanded the streets. And the streets paid him in full. He ran illegal gambling rings that made more money than some Las Vegas casinos. Bookmaking operations, offshore bets, underground poker dens. If there was money riding on it, Della Croce took a cut. Federal agents estimated his take from gambling alone cleared $100 million a year. And unlike Vegas, there were no cameras, no taxes, and no audits. His power came not just from cash, but from discipline. Soldiers feared him. Bosses respected him. He enforced a code of absolute loyalty, omertà, silence at all costs, and any man who broke it didn't live long enough to regret it. Della Croce believed that the mafia was a sacred thing, and he ran his crew with the cold devotion of a monk guarding a temple. But behind that spiritual aura was a strategy built on deception. Della Croce quietly moved his millions into midtown real estate, not through shell corporations or bank accounts, but through religious non-profits. Churches, ministries, spiritual foundations. On paper, they were sacred spaces. In reality, they were cash laundromats. He bought up office buildings and storefronts through dummy clergy organizations, giving him access to some of the most valuable square footage in Manhattan without a single deed bearing his name. Properties donated to these non-profits would later be flipped, rented or leveraged, with the profits funneled into more black market ventures. And no one asked questions, because who audits a church? Della Croce was a phantom. He gave no interviews, rarely appeared in public. And when the FBI finally tried to catch up, they found stacks of paperwork tied to fake congregations with no members and chapels that had never held a sermon. Even in death, he was untouchable. When he passed in 1985, hundreds of men lined up to pay tribute. But his greatest disciple, John Gotti, used that funeral as a turning point. Days later, Paul Castellano was gunned down in front of Sparks Steakhouse. The Gambinos had a new boss, and Agnello's shadow still loomed behind him. Della Croce didn't need headlines or violence. He built empires in silence and baptized them with cash. But the next boss didn't leave a trail. He buried it in digital currency. Before there was Bitcoin, there was a mobster who used numbers like bullets and bought half of New York before anyone even realized what he'd done. Arnold Rothstein. Before there were mob empires, before there were 5 families, there was Arnold Rothstein. They called him the Brain, and for good reason. While other gangsters were cracking skulls in alleyways, Rothstein was quietly writing the playbook for every modern mob boss to follow. He didn't just steal money, he legitimized it, and he did it in a way that law enforcement had never seen before. Rothstein was the original white-collar gangster. Born into wealth in the late 1800s, he didn't come up through the streets. He came up through numbers, cards, and financial sleight of hand. By the time Prohibition hit, Rothstein was already a millionaire, running gambling halls, narcotics smuggling routes, and stock manipulation schemes. But his real genius wasn't just making money. It was hiding it. In 1919, Rothstein orchestrated one of the boldest crimes in American history, the fixing of the World Series. With a few bribes to the right players on the Chicago White Sox, he turned America's pastime into his personal casino. The scandal nearly destroyed Major League Baseball, but Rothstein walked away untouched, and even richer than before. Everyone knew he'd done it, no one could prove it, and that was the Rothstein formula: commit crimes so elegant they looked legal. When other gangsters invested in clubs or speakeasies, Rothstein bought horse racing tracks, insurance firms, and high-end real estate. He turned dirty money into clean profits faster than the IRS could invent tax codes. It was Rothstein who taught the next generation of mobsters, men like Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, and Lucky Luciano, how to build criminal corporations that looked like Wall Street banks. He didn't scream. He didn't kill unless he had to, and he never touched drugs himself. But Rothstein's brain was more dangerous than any bullet. His ability to blur the line between criminal and businessman changed everything. He understood what the courts and police couldn't yet comprehend. Perception is protection. If you looked legitimate, acted legitimate, and had legitimate books, you could do illegitimate things forever. And it worked until it didn't. In 1928, Rothstein was gunned down in a hotel over a gambling debt. But by then, his legacy was sealed. He had reshaped the entire structure of organized crime. Every mob boss who came after him, every single one, followed his blueprint. Own businesses, bribe officials, launder everything. Arnold Rothstein was the prototype, but Rothstein was just the spark. The next man industrialized it. He didn't play poker or fix baseball games. He turned mafia profits into a billion-dollar meat empire, and it all ended with bullets outside a steakhouse. 3. Paul Castellano. Before the gold chains and tabloid headlines, the Gambino family answered to a man who didn't wear flashy suits or hang out in nightclubs. He wore tailored business jackets, lived in a gated Staten Island mansion, and treated crime like a corporation. His name was Paul Castellano, and he was the mob's first CEO. They called him Big Paul, but he wasn't big on street rackets. He thought shakedowns and stick-ups were beneath him. Castellano wanted respect, not just from his crew, but from bankers, politicians, and Wall Street executives, and he got it because, unlike the old-school dons, he didn't rule with bullets. He ruled with balance sheets. Castellano inherited the Gambino family in the late 1970s, already one of the most powerful mafia groups in America. But he didn't want to run it like a gang. He wanted to run it like General Motors. He started by industrializing the family's most overlooked racket, meat distribution. Through his company, Dial Poultry, Castellano rigged contracts with supermarkets, controlled prices across 5 boroughs, and strong-armed competitors out of the market. Soon, every steak and chicken breast sold in New York had Gambino fingerprints on it. What looked like a meat company was actually a money-laundering empire, pumping millions of dollars a year straight into Castellano's hands, all on paper. But that was just his opening move. He expanded into construction, trucking, and high-end restaurants. He installed puppet executives to run companies that won city contracts. He set up fake unions to skim payrolls. He even manipulated bank loans and mortgage rates through compromised officials. Castellano wasn't just the boss of a crime family. He was the hidden boardroom chairman of half the city. He made over $100 million a year, all while living in a custom-built mansion called the White House in Staten Island. He had servants, private chefs, and wore silk robes to dinner. He read the Wall Street Journal every morning and thought of himself not as a gangster, but as a visionary. And in a twisted way, he was. But there was one thing he didn't understand. The streets weren't impressed by balance sheets. His crew, especially the younger ones, saw his polished lifestyle as weakness. They whispered that Castellano had forgotten the code, that he cared more about deals than blood. And when rumors emerged that he was ready to rat to the feds to protect his empire, the knives came out. In 1985, Big Paul was gunned down outside Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan, shot in the head, in broad daylight, no warning, no ceremony, just silence, then bullets. And just like that, the mob's CEO was terminated, but even Big Paul couldn't compete with the boss who broke the code and still got away with it. Because the man who took Castellano's seat didn't wear a tie or read the journal. He wore $2,000 suits, told reporters to go to hell, and became the most famous mobster in American history. 2. John Gotti. Before he ever sat in the boss's chair, he was already a legend. He didn't sneak around alleyways. He didn't wear disguises. He walked straight down Mulberry Street in $1,000 suits, waved at news cameras, and smiled while his enemies dropped like flies. They called him the Teflon Don because nothing ever stuck. John Gotti wasn't just a mob boss. He was a celebrity executioner, the rare figure who could order a hit over Linguini, then walk into a federal courtroom the next morning and leave untouched. He wasn't hiding from the law. He dared it to catch him. Gotti rose through the ranks by doing what few others dared, defying the code. When Paul Castellano refused to even attend his own captain's wake, Gotti saw weakness and orchestrated a hit that shocked the entire Cosa Nostra. Castellano was murdered in broad daylight outside Sparks Steakhouse, and Gotti took his place without asking permission. It was a declaration: the mob isn't a corporation anymore. It's a kingdom, and I'm the king. From that moment, the Gambino family wasn't just powerful. It was unstoppable. Gotti ran everything, from hijacking rings at JFK Airport to illegal gambling operations across Queens and Brooklyn. He controlled unions, casinos, and trucking lines, pulling in an estimated $500 million at his peak. He had more men on the street than some state police forces, and nearly every one of them feared him more than the law. But it wasn't just power that made him different. It was performance. He strutted into courtrooms wearing handmade Brioni suits. He handed cash to neighborhood kids. He ate at high-end restaurants in Manhattan, surrounded by off-duty cops and celebrities. He became a symbol of rebellion and royalty, the man who spit in the face of the FBI and got away with it. 3 times the government tried to take him down. 3 times they failed. Witnesses disappeared. Jurors were bribed. Evidence vanished. Gotti walked free again and again as reporters swarmed his courthouse steps like he was a movie star. But behind the charisma was a storm. Gotti's arrogance began to fracture the very foundation of the mafia. His appetite for publicity brought the full weight of federal law enforcement crashing down. The FBI wired his headquarters. His most trusted friend flipped. In 1992, the Teflon finally peeled off. Gotti was convicted on 13 counts, including murder, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. He was sentenced to life in prison. But even then, locked inside a cell, his name still made headlines. Because John Gotti wasn't just the boss of the Gambino family, he was the last mobster America fell in love with. But even John Gotti, the face of the American mafia, didn't come close to what came next. Because the next boss didn't just rule with fear, he ruled with silence, and still does. This is the mob boss who quietly owns all of New York. The mob boss who quietly owns all of New York. They call him the architect, but nobody really knows his face. No mugshots, no courtroom sketches, no videos of him striding through darkened backrooms or slamming fists on tables. His name isn't in any federal indictment, and in official records he barely exists. Yet ask any of the 5 major mafia families that carved New York City's criminal landscape for over a century, and you'll hear the same whispered truth. Nothing happens in this city without the architect's permission. He is the unseen hand guiding billions of dollars, the shadow behind every major turf war, every shipment of illicit goods, every political deal that keeps the city's underworld humming quietly beneath the skyline. Unlike the old bosses who flaunted guns and bravado, the architect operates with absolute invisibility. If the classic mafia dons were generals commanding armies, he is the master planner building the infrastructure beneath their power. He doesn't order hits or command street crews. Instead, he controls the very veins and arteries of the city's economy, the real estate, the trucking unions, the nightclubs, the garbage routes, and increasingly, the digital currencies that finance the next generation of crime. His fingerprints are everywhere, if you know where to look. From Midtown skyscrapers to Brooklyn's waterfront, from crypto startups in Tribeca to luxury waste management companies cleaning up Wall Street's messes, his empire stretches wide and deep. But his power isn't just about ownership, it's about alliances. The architect isn't tied to just one crime family. He's linked by silent partnerships to all 5 major families: Genovese, Gambino, Lucchese, Bonanno, and Colombo. Through a labyrinth of shell corporations, fake non-profits, offshore trusts, and anonymous digital wallets, he manages to keep the peace among groups that once tore the city apart with bloody turf wars. When shootings and kidnappings threatened to spiral out of control in the early 2000s and 10s, it was said the architect ended the violence with a single phone call. That call was routed through a military-grade encrypted network, bouncing servers across Dubai, Zurich, and even lesser-known tax havens. The voice on the other end was modulated, unrecognizable, and yet the gangs listened. The killings stopped the very next day. Internal FBI documents first revealed his nickname in the late 2000s, the architect, described as the invisible boss who redefined organized crime in New York City. He is a man who never appears in public, never leaves a paper trail, and always expands his influence without anyone noticing. His estimated net worth, easily over $3 billion, but no prosecutor has ever been able to tie a dollar of it directly to crime. Consider the businesses he quietly controls. A New York real estate trust registered in the Cayman Islands owns multiple luxury penthouses in Manhattan, none under his name. A commercial trucking company operating over 400 vehicles moves goods across the city's docks and highways, with no publicly listed owner. Several high-end nightclubs and private bottle service venues regularly laundering large sums, but registered under front companies with no traceable management. Crypto ventures using blockchain transactions so cleverly obfuscated that federal agents admit they're chasing ghosts. Investigations linking him to these ventures have stalled repeatedly. In one case, an Interpol-led probe into a European fentanyl trafficking ring traced suspicious transactions back to one of his shell companies, but the trail dissolved into anonymous cryptocurrency wallets operating behind layers of encryption. More alarmingly, it's believed he owns untraceable shares in police and firefighter pension funds, ensuring a quiet influence over law enforcement attitudes toward investigations that might threaten his empire. Political operatives across the city's boroughs quietly admit he funnels money to both major parties, Democrats and Republicans alike, guaranteeing that whoever wins, his interests remain protected. 2 sealed federal witness lists reportedly include the architect's name, but not as a defendant or target. Instead, law enforcement insiders say he is someone prosecutors refuse to subpoena, fearing the consequences of exposing him. Attempts to expose the architect have been met with silence, or worse. A whistleblower, once a financial analyst for a company tied to one of his firms, vanished in 2017. His car was found parked outside his home, untouched, his phone off, and his bank accounts frozen by what investigators called an untraceable clerical error. No ransom, no note, no sign of foul play. Despite this, official agencies claim there is no active investigation against the architect, citing lack of evidence. But the truth is far more disturbing. There is no evidence because he has mastered the art of invisibility. He doesn't need to be seen to rule. From the docks of Red Hook to the towering glass of Hudson Yards, from the Diamond District to the underworld of cryptocurrency, his influence is pervasive. Every time a district attorney opens a case against one of his allies, a higher power quietly ensures the files disappear. Because the architect isn't just a boss, he is the system. The mafia didn't vanish after the decades-long law enforcement crackdown. It evolved into something far more dangerous. A silent, untouchable network of control woven so tightly into the city's economy that it can't be uprooted by indictments or raids. No more flashy shootings, no more public executions. Now power comes from quiet dominance, from ownership, influence, and leverage. And this invisible force rules with a reach so deep, so wide, that even international agencies study him in secret, hoping to understand the new face of organized crime. They know his nickname, they know his methods, but they don't know his name, and they never will. The architect is not just the last great mob boss of New York. He is the future where crime wears a suit, signs contracts, pays taxes, and controls a city without ever showing its face. And as New York rises and falls, the architect remains, quietly pulling the strings beneath it all. No one will admit it openly, but the mafia as we knew it is dead. What's of
Back with another video. Y'all seen the title going down. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for me, please. Y'all see it in the title. Before we get in this video, though, I do have to say, for the people that's always worried about me and what I got going on, don't. People always talk about what I wear, what my hats is, this, that, and the other. If anything, like I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I used to be this kid. Let me tell y'all this before we get in this video. I'm gonna make it quick though. Y'all know I like to give y'all, I always do these videos in my own setting, in my own clothes, to where I wear my sweatsuits I wear in my home, and again in my own setting and stuff like that. I try not to be so much noticed. I try not to be for this. It was a few videos that I did, but everything is coming back. Somebody made a post saying, remember when Obama's chef, who happened to be writing a tell-all, ended up unalived? I feel like we might want to revisit that. And as y'all know, I'm revisiting it. I still want to know what happened to Obama's. I still want to know what the Obama chef knew, which everybody is saying that, it's different things. It's different things, but a lot of things are starting to come together. Telling you, a lot of stuff is starting to come together. But seeing this post said Barack Obama's chef, I'm gonna read this to y'all. Barack Obama's chef Tafari Campbell, who allegedly unalived by drowning. First, I have to say that. I have to say unalive all the time. I hate saying it too. By drowning, first worked in George W. Bush White House before Obama was sworn in. He remained as chef at the White House during both of Obama's 2 terms as president. After Obama's 2nd term, Campbell continued to work for Obama as a private chef. That means Campbell was employed at the White House for Obama's private party, where they flew in $65,000 worth of, hot dogs, pizzas, and chips and everything like that. YouTube, I'm just reading the post. And also, it's an Alice in Wonderland party that took place. I'm not too sure about that and what that is. It says here Campbell's family told the South Florida Sun in 2009. Okay, so this really was basically what I originally, what I was saying in the first place. This is just more of the story. Y'all can find this as Liz Crunkin. I think that's how you say that. If I did say it wrong, I apologize. It's Crokin. Then this is the Alice in Wonderland party that was mentioned, the Halloween party. Where they ordered $65,000 worth. And I feel like people are saying, it literally says, I think Obama spent about $65,000 on taxpayers' money flying in, the food from Chicago for a private party at the White House not too long ago. Assume we are using the same channels. So it's pretty crazy. If y'all know what I mean by that, I'm sure a lot of y'all do know with the food that is mentioned. It's pretty sad, pretty sickening. And, we can't cover too much of it, can't talk about too much of it and go deep into it, with it being on YouTube. But literally here, this was just a day ago. Was this a day ago? No, this is actually today. This is posted today, this morning. Obama was on site when his personal chef drowned. Secret Service has surveillance footage from just before the incident. Says this isn't going away. The walls are closing in. TikTok Obama. Now, y'all already know not TikTok. You already know Obama is in deep trouble with a lot of things right now, including this. Let's check it out. This is, I'm pretty sure, Jason Waters.
Fox News Alert. We have new information tonight in the drowning death of Obama's personal chef, Tafari Campbell. The Massachusetts State report with some redactions. According to the report, Obama was on the scene shortly after Campbell went missing. Report also states an unmanned female staffer jumped into the water when Tafari fell off his board, but it was already too late. He disappeared. We also now know that Secret Service has surveillance footage of Campbell from Obama's compound moments before he entered the water. So we're going to see if we can get that, and we may have that for you. Again, we're very, very sorry for Tafari's family. That was a serious, serious tragedy. Fox News Alert. We have new information tonight in the drowning death of Obama's personal chef.
Not even gonna lie. It's definitely sad. It's definitely messed up. I feel like, what is it, like 2 years now? Just seeing how how sickening, how sad it is for, you know, surveillance footage just now to come out is pretty crazy. I'm not even gonna lie. People are saying take his passport so he doesn't flee, and you know, ASAP. I feel like there's a lot of things that definitely needs to be done. I'm telling y'all, it's pretty weird. Y'all even got you know, the photo, you know, Sarah Fields that posted said you might have noticed Cash Patel's tie. It is a paddleboarder on it. If y'all haven't seen this yet, it is pretty wild. I'm not even gonna lie, and I feel like they're definitely closing in. This is about hustle. Said, did we ever find out about Obama's chef? That, you know, that said is 3 feet in water. I don't think it was 3 feet. I think it was 8 feet. But he was 5'10", top swimmer. And people are clearly not getting the right answers. Okay, here, right here. Tafari Campbell, Obama's former personal chef, was a skilled swimmer. Somehow he drowned in just 8 feet of water, about 100 feet from the Obama's residence while paddleboarding, which he did not do regularly. No life vest, no leash, no body cam footage. Just 911 call from a calm United States Secret Service agent. I'm sure y'all heard the call. If y'all didn't, y'all can look up that call. Said, and the second paddleboarder who was with him were never identified. But I feel like it's a lot of stuff is definitely going to start coming out. They said they have surveillance footage of Obama, and soon definitely going to get that. Got to hear whistleblower from Barack Obama's late chef Tafari Campbell's family have reportedly come forward revealing that at the time of his mysterious drowning at the Obama's Martha Vineyard estate, Campbell had been working on a tell-all book to expose the misdeeds of Obama's. He's also said to have had years long of a relationship with the former president. This comes at a short after Larry Sinclair of Larry. I remember Larry. We did a video on Larry Sinclair. It also fits a similar pattern to the known case of a man named Donald Young, a member of Obama's church, which we went over that as well. The heat of his 2008 campaign, the night before Young was set to come forward to the American public to expose Obama. He was mysteriously okay. So we went over that as well. We went over that. The stuff with Donald Young. I'm sure many of y'all know about that too. But a lot of this is just weird. I'm not even gonna lie. A lot of this is just weird. A lot of it is, you know, odd, the whole thing with this whole case. But I feel like a lot of the stuff with Obama is definitely going to come out each day. You know, I see something new each day. I seen something. I think we're gonna go over it tomorrow with Tulsi Gabbard. Basically, if I'm not mistaken, I know for a fact. I'm not gonna get into it. I'm gonna just wait till tomorrow. But I know for a fact that it's not looking good for Obama right now. It's definitely not looking good. Which one thing about it, I'm definitely happy that a lot is actually getting done on top of a lot of the corruption that's going down. Not even gonna lie. Definitely love it. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Definitely stay tuned for the next video dropping today. Catch y'all next one.
Welcome back. Well, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard confirming that the Trump administration is considering pursuing charges against former President Barack Obama after declassified documents allege he and his team laid the groundwork for the Russia collusion probe. Watch this.
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former
The evidence,
President Obama?
correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment.
President Obama's office responded to the allegations saying this: these bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. The House Intelligence Report also failed to include any direct evidence that Putin wanted to help then President Trump during the 2016 election. The documents also reveal the Kremlin's alleged knowledge of health problems that Hillary Clinton may have had. Watch this.
Putin's principal interests relating to the 2016 election were to undermine faith in the U.S. democratic process, not show any preference of a certain candidate. In fact, this report shows Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken what Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency. In the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered, John Brennan, who was CIA director at the time, and the intelligence community intentionally suppressed intelligence that showed Putin was saving the most damaging material that he had in his possession about Hillary Clinton. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote unquote clear preference for Trump.
Yeah, we said all of this at the time. One section of the report includes allegations that Putin had intelligence from the DNC, allegedly showing Democrat leaders found Clinton's health to be extraordinarily alarming and could have had serious negative impact on her election chances. Joining me now is Fox News contributor, former FBI special agent, Nicole Parker. Nicole, great to see you.
Thank you for having me,
Thank you so much for being here. And you were at the FBI and really watched a change at the FBI as it went all political. And that's why you left the FBI. Tell us about this period of the things that you remember.
For me, the most notable date in my time at the FBI was July 5th of 2016, when Jim Comey came before America and said no reasonable prosecutor would charge Hillary Clinton. And all FBI agents were watching. I remember standing in my boss's office with a group of agents, and our jaws were on the ground, and we're like, what did he just say? Because what he had done was basically read an indictment against Hillary Clinton and then just said, you know what, no one would charge this, move along, let's keep going. But Maria, I think what's very alarming and chilling, being at the FBI, again, I was working violent crime in FBI Miami. We wanted nothing to do with the politicization, but it was inescapable. We could not ignore it, and it became so loud, it overwhelmed us, and it prevented the real agents from doing the real work. But I can tell you, I know individuals that were involved in this, that were looking into the Hillary Clinton emails and things of that nature, and they were finding things. And they were, in essence, told, you know what, stand down on that. That's not what we're looking for. That's not the focus here. And that's not what we're going to be doing here.
Unbelievable.
So what they tried to do is they were hell-bent on basically stopping President Trump from getting elected rather than focusing on the Hillary Clinton emails. They then pivoted to Operation Crossfire Hurricane and said, hey, don't look here, but let's turn and look here and see what's going on over here. It looks like the Trump campaign's colluding with Russia, when in essence, they were not. And that's when all of this happened. It was July of 2016 that they actually opened the Operation Crossfire Hurricane investigation at the FBI to shift responsibility from Hillary Clinton and put it onto President Trump's campaign. And we all know that there was so much false information that was used in that entire investigation.
Yeah.
The Steele dossier, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but it was totally inappropriate what they did. So they tried to stop President Trump from winning.
That's right.
They were unsuccessful. So then as soon as he won, they had to delegitimize his presidency.
Yeah.
And they were hell-bent on it.
I remember it well. And I remember watching Jim Comey that day on July 16th, because he went through a litany of things that Clinton did. You know, using a server that was in her basement, and, you know, sending emails when she went on international trips, and how dangerous it was. And then at the end of the list of everything she did, he says, no prosecutor would ever pursue this. And I was watching, wait a minute, what did he just say? But you're right. And we reported all of this, Nicole, at the time. You know, I mean, I was out front and getting slammed by the media as a result of this. And Devin Nunes and John Ratcliffe were the truth tellers. They came on my show repeatedly and went through every moment of, you know, what the Democrats were doing, sitting on information, not sending them reports and information that they had that they had demanded. Here's a bit of that. Just, it's almost 10 years now. Watch. There are more felonies that you can point to. I mean, the idea that Cheryl Mills got immunity after lying to the FBI and a number of other Clinton cronies getting immunity after actually lying to the FBI, creating all this nonsense and noise around a Russia probe and getting a special counsel involved. So the bottom line is, where are the charges? How far up the chain does this go? Was Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton basically pulling the strings?
Everybody, I think, but the Trump campaign and Republicans and the American people, everybody else outside of those three groups knew about the dossier and were actively trying to open investigations, start investigations to use this dirt to go after the other campaign.
Hillary Clinton goes to run for president, and she's got the full weight and strength and power of the U.S. government behind her, where FBI and other agencies are completely politicized to make sure she wins, and she still lost. That was quite extraordinary.
It's almost prophetic, Maria. I mean, I can tell you as an agent, I used to watch your program, and every time I would watch, I'm like, you know what? She is telling the truth. That is what is going on here. But again, I'm inside the agency. I can't say a word, but you should feel completely validated right now, because for the haters that were hating on you, you were speaking the truth the entire time. And you know what? It's going to come out. And I appreciate what Tulsi Gabbard is doing. I'm a truth follower. Present the evidence to Department of Justice, let them do their full investigation. But the key is that you have a DOJ now that is going to be fair and unbiased. And that's not what we've had in the past.
Let's talk about crime, because one of President Trump's biggest priorities was securing the border. He's done that, and I feel like the city of New York feels better. But New York City crime, the NYPD is now trying to reduce violent crime rates and seeing some success. Murders are down 26% year to date. Total major felony offenses dropped more than 5% in the same time period. Some New Yorkers are worried about the potential impact of Democrat socialist Zoran Mamdani and his progressive on-crime policies if he wins the mayoral election. Mamdani has not commented on the recent shooting of an off-duty Customs and Border Patrol officer in a city park, and ICE is calling him out for his, quote, deafening silence. Plus, he says he will no longer defund the police. This is now his new take, but he campaigned on that promise in the past. Police union leaders are warning of a cop exodus if Mamdani wins, as large numbers of police officers are already retiring, Nicole. I want to get your take on this. It feels better in New York City, and I think it's because President Trump secured the border, for sure. You know, you can talk about what the NYPD is doing. Great. I think the NYPD is great, and they're doing a great job, but you cannot escape the fact that it's largely because Trump secured the border. Your thoughts?
I agree with you completely. He secured the border, and he came in and said, you know what, we're going to make America safe again. And cities, you need to get into line with this, because there have been a lot of problems in New York City. You know, and I know that it has not been a safe place to be in the last several years, especially under the Biden administration. And we look at what happened to the CBP officer. That is a direct result of gross negligence at the border due to Biden's policies and Mayorkas and sanctuary city policies. And you're right. There are police officers that have felt completely hamstrung in the city of New York and other major cities. They are not permitted to do their jobs under certain leadership. And you know what? They're all flocking to Florida, where I live, because that's where we appreciate law enforcement. We back the blue. But President Trump is all about making America safe. I do think it has a strong impact. And for this mayoral candidate to say originally, hey, you know what, defund the police, let's use social workers. That is the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life. Having worked violent crime, that is not the solution. And again, he's having to back off of it because you know what? People do want to live in safe communities. They are sick and tired of living in fear. And that's why I appreciate what President Trump has done. He is making America safe. And I hope that, you know, New York continues to be safer.
Well, I know you lost your dear friend, Laura, in Florida as a result of violence. But do you think Mamdani could win New York? And if he does, do you believe there will be a cop exodus?
I want to have more faith in the New Yorkers. I used to be here. I was here for 9/11. I want to hope that they can see the truth and what's best for their city and that he does not win for the sake. And I'm a resident of Florida. We've had plenty of New Yorkers come down. We are saturated. They need to stay in place in New York because if he wins, they will all come down to Florida and other places. Yeah. And there will be law enforcement officers that will continue to leave in droves. And we do have to respect and back the blue. I did lose my best friend, Special Agent Laura Schwarzenberger. And Maria, I have always appreciated your dedication and your respect to those that are doing the heavy lifting in this country and protecting Americans.
Thank you so much. Nicole, great to see you. Yeah. We appreciate it. Nicole Parker, former FBI. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
President Trump securing a
$550 billion trade deal with Japan. And folks, this is not just a handshake and a headline. This is a blue-collar economic windfall.
But I just signed the largest trade deal in history. I think maybe the largest deal in history with Japan. I always say it has to be great for everybody. It's a great deal. A lot different from the deals in the past, I can tell you that. But we're doing really well as a country. We're strong. We have a lot of money flowing in.
Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Daga McDowell, joined by my co-host, Jonathan Hoenig, Brian Brimberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for this entire hour, John Lonsky, Lonsky Group founder and economist extraordinaire. 15% tariffs, 90% of the profits flowing right back into the United States. Japan will open its economy to U.S.-made automobiles and agricultural products. President Trump says it will create hundreds of thousands of American jobs, not consulting jobs, not human resources directors, actual make stuff jobs, building automobiles, cars, growing food, exporting American energy, leverage, pressure, and results. The president is already pivoting to the European Union, and Brussels is scrambling to avoid a 30% tariff. The president is flipping the script, and American workers are cashing in. John, how do you see this? Japan, critical trading partner, critical ally of the U.S., and this deal gets done. And the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, does deserve a good chunk of the credit here.
I concur with the U.S. equity market and the Japanese equity market. I think today it was up by more than 3%. Some of the auto stocks in Japan posted even bigger gains. What really stands out to me, as far as the American worker is concerned, is that this inflow of capital, that $550 billion that Trump is speaking about, that's telling me that perhaps Japanese automakers will increase their presence in the United States, build more cars, and that implies more manufacturing jobs for Americans. This is definitely a positive.
I'm familiar with the Japanese automakers throughout the South because they were in right-to-work states, right?
Yep.
You're going, yep, shaking your head. Continue.
Well, I think it's the auto part of this is interesting, and I'm kind of curious to see where it goes because, Japan was really concerned about 25% hitting their autos, and those are not. They've got a lot of auto manufacturers in the South. They've got a lot of manufacturing outside of the U.S. as well, so that's an issue in terms of tariffs. But the interesting question now is what does it mean for Canadian and Mexican automobiles that have U.S. content in them? And this is what I think this could be the roadmap for that because it went from 25% to 15%. Isn't it funny that everyone's breathing a sigh of relief at 15%? This is total Trump, right? Because if he would have come into this thing months ago and said, I want a 15% tariff, I'm sure everybody would have melted down about that and said, that's terrible. It's got to be lower than that. But because he came in at these higher levels, very Trumpy and 15%, the market's like, oh, good, 15%. But so, Jonathan, let me just say, but I think Canada and Mexico now are saying, okay, how do we get in on the 15%? And the big three automakers want to see that happen. So we'll see if it's a template.
Isn't that the issue, though? I mean, if the goal is to get people to manufacture in the U.S. at 15%, at 20%, it's still profitable to import those foreign goods. So it almost seems like, you have to have the tariff be something like 30, 40, 50% if you actually want to bring that manufacturing home. A lot of importers will say, okay, 15, 10, 20% we can kick in, 50, 60 we cannot. So is this really going to actually achieve the president's goal?
I think, as I said earlier, I think the important point is there seems to be some implication of increased direct investment in the U.S. economy by Japanese companies. When I used to have a full head of hair like you, back in the early 80s, Ronald Reagan was president. He was under pressure to place tariffs on Japanese automakers because they were overtaking the U.S. auto market. But instead of what the Japanese automakers agreed to do was to begin to establish these manufacturing plants in, Tennessee, wherever, Alabama. And they did that in place of having to have these tariffs placed upon them. Japanese auto stocks increased sharply today. And that's because Japanese investors, global investors, are convinced that these Japanese automakers, the Toyotas and the like, have the profit margins needed to absorb a lot of these tariffs without suffering unduly. And they got that uncertainty out of the way.
And
Well,
just go ahead.
Oh, it's okay.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if they manufacture here, to Jonathan's point, then they don't, or they manufacture components and things, and that's what this investment part of it is about, then they don't have to pay anything. So that's the incentive. I mean, 15% is still more than zero, which I think is positive. But I just wanted to talk about the access part, Dagan, because the investment here in the United States is important. It's going to create jobs. But President Trump and his team have been talking about, you know, access to foreign markets. This is what they want for China, for example, to open things up so that we can do more trade over there. We can sell more of our goods over there. And I think that that piece of this is interesting too, because as these deals come out, if they do serve, Brian, to your point, as a template, it sort of lays the foundation for, you know, the other countries that we're negotiating with right now. You know, I go back to that New York Post cover. I'm not tired of winning yet, and the market likes this deal.
One of my questions would be, what type of motor vehicles do the Japanese want to import from the United States? Maybe pickup trucks, being something, some specialized vehicle? I have some questions about that.
Well, it sounds like they get their choice now because there's not going to be a tariff.
And you can't underestimate the importance of Japan as a trading partner. You know, they are our biggest foreign investor is Japan, and our number 5th biggest importer. So this is a very vice versa positive relationship for Americans. And the fact that, you know, like it or not, the fact is these tariffs are higher than they were just 10, 15 years ago. Yes, I know they're down from 24% to what, 15% now, but they were 2% before Trump came to office. Right. So tariffs are still up quite a bit.
And tariffs are a sales tax. And when you tax more of something, you get less of it. And, you know, quite frankly, but I think we're seeing right now as a first step as broadening the tax base for the U.S. government. Who knows? There might be a further broadening in the future as a means of trying to close that federal budget gap.
I think that sales tax thing, though, is overplayed a little bit in terms of where do the costs get passed on. I just think that was like the big boogeyman when this all started. You're all getting a big tax. Watch your prices go up. And I just don't think that's played out. Now maybe it'll play out. But and Jonathan, just on your point about the tariffs and 10 to 15%, and Jackie, I think, is going here. 10 to 15%, I still think is a big encouragement for companies to look at relocating to the U.S. I mean, it's not nothing. I don't think the president wants to completely cut off the flow. And I think he likes revenue more than anything. And that's what the 10 to 15% will get you. But every company is on notice. If you want to make your life simpler now and in the future, because I think the American people are with the president, you should look at doing it in America. To me, that is the most crystal clear message the president has sent economically in this term so far.
And who's our biggest trade adversary? It's not Japan nowadays. It's China. Is this sending a message to China? And do we really want to have foreign direct investment from Chinese companies in the United States? I wonder. We have a military problem with them, national security problems.
Well, I mean, well, the one thing is for sure is that the certainty is a positive. And I think to your point, John, that's one reason that you're seeing equity markets both at here and at home up today, because, you know, markets and investors can start to plan even a little bit long term. With all respect to the president, he's talking, well, in 30 days we could have this, and 60 days we can have that. As investors, we're looking much more further out from that. So the fact that we have some certainty here, that to me says why the market.
You know, the president also did a Truth Social post, and I don't have it in front of me, but he said something very interesting today. He said, I will, in response to Japan deal, I will trade tariff points for market access. I don't know if you saw that post. And I thought that was such an interesting post from a certainty standpoint, from a where he's going standpoint. That was one of the first times I've heard him say, I will give up on tariffs, which you know he loves, because he wants more than anything market access for U.S. goods. I do think investors like that kind of message because it is an access openness message.
And so this all gets to what we were talking about yesterday about growth and the overall economic engine that he's trying to build here. I don't think you can't really put tangible values necessarily on how much they're going to take from us. But if every country he's negotiating with starts taking more goods, it starts to become, it's significant. We were even talking about tariff revenue. Nobody was expecting $100 billion so far, or $300 billion by the end of the year. So these are aspects, and also goes back to the big, beautiful law, Dagan, because at the end of the day, we need that growth engine to pay for some of the stuff that was in there. And this is how the balancing act happens.
You mentioned the tax of the tariffs, and you might have covered this yesterday, but GM, General Motors, is eating the tariffs. That it reported $1.1 billion in off operating income because of the tariff. Wait, let me finish. That was a 32% quarterly drop, and they absorbed rather than raising prices this quarter.
That's right.
So their shareholders ate
on the prices, right? The shareholders are getting hit.
I'm agreeing with you that it's not a free lunch, that the money shows up somewhere.
Yep. And there's less money for investment spending on the part of GM.
One other thing I wanted to add in terms of how unique the Japanese deal is, and this is straight from the Treasury Secretary, that what kind of brought this deal together at the last minute. It was the elections were on Sunday. The LVP did slightly better than expected, although it doesn't have a majority. And then the Japanese government was ready to come up with a deal. That's directly from an interview that Scott Bessent did. And then the president brings the Japanese trade team into the Oval Office. But the trade team came up with a unique financing mechanism to provide equity, credit guarantees, and funding for major projects in the United States. That is all, and that is in addition to foreign direct investment. All of this is new capital. And he was kind of suggesting that if the European Union wants to get a deal done, you might want to step up with something similar.
Right.
I will just leave it at that.
This afternoon, 20 leading technology and energy companies are announcing more than $92 billion of investments in Pennsylvania. And if you want, we could probably get them up. Let's talk to them right now. But this is a really triumphant day for the people of the Commonwealth and for the United States of America. We're doing things that nobody ever thought possible. Today's commitments are ensuring that the future is going to be designed, built, and made right here in Pennsylvania and right here in Pittsburgh, and I have to say right here in the United States of America.
That's President Trump doing what he does best in Pittsburgh yesterday, getting more money into America. That was the inaugural AI Energy Summit, announcing more than $90 billion in AI and energy investments for the Keystone State. Top technology and energy sector executives were there, supporting their own investments for the future of America's digital space in the world. Cloud computing company CoreWeave announced a $6 billion investment for a new data center in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And joining me right now is the CEO of CoreWeave, Mike Intrator. Mike, great to see you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Your company has been on fire. Congratulations to you. Tell me about yesterday and this exciting development.
Yesterday was amazing. Senator McCormick kind of nailed it right at the start of the summit when he said that President Trump was going to catalyze the moment, and I really think that was the perfect word for what happened. Looking around that room, seeing those executives, watching the collective group of us make these commitments to doing business in the Commonwealth and kind of continue to build the energy infrastructure, the data center infrastructure, the computing infrastructure to kind of keep America's AI aspirations right at the forefront of where it needs to be.
Yeah, and look at all these companies that made investments: Brookfield, Capital Power, Constellation Energy, Energy Capital Partners, Google, Meta, GE Vernova. You announced CoreWeave's $9 billion acquisition of Core Scientific. You also announced this $6 billion investment to
Very interesting stuff. Tim Dillon had dinner with J.D. Vance, and what does Adam do with his bottle of water? He's always with
He does the bubble thing.
He does the bubble thing for his voice.
That's why I got the pink Yeti.
But you know what we
Yeah.
have, ladies and gentlemen? Pay attention here. These are the taper bottoms that fit in all cars.
Yeah, I
See the
love
taper bottom? Don't have to worry about it. Regardless of car you have, it fits in a cup holder in the
Here's
front.
what I'm going to do right now.
And look at
There it
this.
is.
The pink and the white one. You know what?
Just went in there.
Bigger, better.
L'chaim, PBD.
And Pat, you know the pink and the white one?
Yeah.
Bigger, better insulated than the Stanley. Your wife will love these better than Stanley's.
Again, remember, when we do these guys, we don't do a big order, okay? We even have the one Yeti all the way at the bottom for dogs, okay? The Yeti bowl. Okay, can you imagine your dog's even going to be optimistic about the future, guys, if you get this form? So go place your order. We want 1 million Future Looks Bright pieces all over the world. And if you support the brand, go support Future Looks Bright. Get yourself a Yeti, and while you're there, maybe pick up a hat or two for yourself as well. All right, let's get right into it. Rob, first story. What is the audience saying they want us to go with the first story? Did we do the poll?
Oh, we did. Right now, 42% of the audience wants to hear about Obama being guilty of treason.
Okay. All right. So, Obama, you asked for it. We're coming to you first. So Obama office responds to Trump's accusation of treason. Outrageous. Let me read this to you. And Thomas Ellsworth, I'm coming to you first. So please be prepared with all your notes.
Ready.
Obama's office spokesperson, Patrick Rodenbush, great first name, rejected the office of the Director of National Intelligence. Reports claim that senior Obama administration officials orchestrated the Russia collusion hoax, stating, out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. And he called the allegations outrageous and ridiculous, a weak attempt of distraction. He said, nothing in the document issues last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 election but did not successfully manipulate any votes. The ODNI report released by Tulsi Gabbard on Friday found overwhelming evidence that after Trump won in 2016 election against Hillary Clinton, President Obama and his national security cabinet members manufactured and politicized intelligence to lay groundwork for a years-long coup against Trump. Tom, what's your thoughts on the story?
So there are three things hiding in plain sight here. The first that's hiding in plain sight was that Obama was nowhere in sight. He didn't come to a podium. He didn't do one of those impromptu interviews. The media that follows him around where he goes for his foundation or things he does didn't come up behind him. He didn't go on the podcast with his wife where he was talking about young men and things and needing gay friends a week ago to come back and says, I don't need any of this crap. No, nothing. Obama was silent. Why is Obama silent? Ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen.
He's above this.
Or maybe he's deep in it. Maybe he's not above it. He's deep in it. And so he sends a spokesperson, Patrick Rodenbush, which is what Obama doesn't do. He's never riding Bush, is got an issue here.
What was that?
Now he goes, the office of the presidency and the office. So they're speaking in third person. Whenever you have people in Washington that are cornered, they speak in third person. I think this issue is not something that will be dignified by a statement. Now, I'm not even making a statement. See, I'm referring to the issue in third person. So Obama is his office, from the office of Obama. And then if it hits the fan, what do those politicians always do? Well, that statement from my office may have been premature. So now it's a statement by your office. It's not you. And then lastly, in plain sight, Vinny, look at these words. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion. Hang on. Now they're going to state the widely accepted conclusion. Russia worked to influence the 2016 election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. Wait a minute. That wasn't the conclusion. The conclusions the Dems say wasn't that Russia worked to influence it, but did not successfully vote. They said this is an illegitimate president in 2016. They worked to influence votes. So now they're restating it. So whenever you don't want to answer the question, restate the question. Were you home by 11 o'clock last night, Tom? Dad, you always tell me to be home by midnight. I don't know what the problem is here. Did I answer the question?
No, you didn't.
No, I restated it. I restated it as if I'm trying to, talk to my dad and be cool. And I said, son, that wasn't the question. Were you home by 11 p.m. last night? Dad, I don't know why this is a question. That's how politicians work. So all in here, this is here. And you want to know why this is happening? Myself and many other people think this is happening, Pat, because the treason word was used, and that diagram presented by Tulsi Gabbard had what they don't like, backup and evidence.
By the way, here's Tulsi. If you want to play the clip of Tulsi Gabbard while she's talking about this entire issue. Is this the one, Rob, from the clip?
So I have two. Yes, this is her announcing some of the indictments against Obama, and then I also have her talking about the media being complicit in the Russiagate hoax.
Go for it.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. At President Trump's direction and with the support and coordination with the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford, today we've released a declassified oversight majority staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration.
Yep. There you go. So that's that. So this is something real that happened. If this gets proven and people see it, the question then becomes, which is where Vinny always goes to, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen to Obama. But they are saying that Obama may be asked to be subpoenaed. Okay. House Speaker Mike Johnson says Congress might subpoena Obama over Russia conspiracy. Is this it, Rob? Can you play this clip?
I think we have a responsibility to follow the truth where it leads and to do it in an unbiased fashion, to do effectively the opposite of what that other team did. They're engaged in a partisan political plot to take down their foe and the other party. We need to be about the rule of law and bringing order to the chaos and searching out the truth, because the American people are owed those answers. So we have some very bright, very capable, very strong leaders at Judiciary and Oversight,
Rob,
Chairman Jim Jordan,
He
Chairman
does.
Jamie Comer, and the other committees that would be involved. And I do expect that whether there's a special counsel appointed, which some are suggesting, and or in conjunction with the House investigations, that we will get the answers and there will be accountability to the extent that we're able to do that, referring people to the DOJ for prosecution and any other measure that is appropriate as we begin to uncover more of the facts.
Does it get tricky at all with the former president, President Obama, looking at what his role in this is and bringing him in for some sort of deposition, potential subpoena?
Well, listen, I mean, we have no concern about that. If it's uncomfortable for him, he shouldn't have been involved in overseeing this, which is what it appears to us has happened.
Okay. So where does he say, Rob, that he's going to be?
Well, I think that was like that was just him, Pat, saying basically like, what about Obama? That's him going, well, if he's involved, then it is what it is.
But that's not how I hear it. I'm reading an article here that says Mike Johnson says that he might be subpoenaed. Okay, he might not be. Now the reaction that's the one I want to see. Go forward.
CNN shut it
we
up.
have members of the media who were complicit in this from the very beginning, who were leaked early copies of this, or at least lines from this January 2017 Obama manufactured intelligence assessment. They printed what they were fed. People like Ellen Nakashima from the Washington Post, who, by the way, went on to win a Pulitzer Prize because for years she was so good at lying and not telling the truth to the American people that they gave her an award for it. These people are still here. Ellen Nakashima is still harassing people who work within the intelligence community, who are calling up and reporting her, using burner phones to try to ask them harassing questions.
Okay, who is this person she's talking about? Can you pull up the profile? Let's find out who she's talking about. Tom, do you know that person?
Yeah, she is a Washington Post reporter, and what she does is she basically is a regurgitator, and then she presents herself as a Washington insider. I've got all these contacts, got all this stuff going on, but she gets fed by the DNC, so she is their mouthpiece in the media. That's what she is, and they arranged for her to get a Pulitzer Prize in investigative journalism, where all she's doing is
I get that.
regurgitating.
Can you Google who she is?
Yep.
And just go to her Wikipedia. I want to find out who this person is. How do you say your name, Tom?
Nakashima.
Nakashima? What do you mean Nakashima? Are you being sarcastic? This is a sensitive topic, Tom. What do you mean Nakashima?
It's really Nakashima? You better knock it off, Tom. Nakashima, before I knock it off. Here it is. Ellen Nakashima.
Okay, go to Ellen Nakashima.
Let's go look where she went to school, ladies and
I'm
gentlemen.
actually
Could I
curious.
guess? Harvard?
Zoom in a little bit.
Harvard?
WAPO,
Berkeley.
Pulitzer.
Berkeley!
I mean, it doesn't get worse than that. So she went to Berkeley, London, University of Berkeley for journalism, London. She began her journalism career at Hartford Courant and in Quincy Patriot Ledger before joining WAPO as a reporter in 1990. She was working as a White House reporter since South Asia. She won a series of awards. Okay.
Covering national security since 2009.
One of the ones that was guest invited to state dinner hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden in honor of Prime Minister Fumio Kishida at the White House. Okay. So that's what our friend...
she's a Washington insider.
Yeah. That's what our friend Tulsi's talking about on
Insider.
information that's going on. Now, listen, as this is going, is this a method of overshadowing something else that may be taking place? Because just yesterday, when it comes down to the Epstein story, let me go to that. So we were told that they're going to ask a judge to do what? To release the files and let the people see the files, right? Is that what they promised us, Tom?
Yep, called unsealing testimony.
Perfect. And then what happens when we're told that? Judge denies request to unseal Epstein grand jury transcripts in Florida. So why would he do that? Why would this judge do that? Okay. Federal judge in Florida, Judge Robin Rosenberg, denied the Trump administration's request on Wednesday to unseal grand jury transcripts. Rob, it says you have a video here from 2005 to 2007 investigation into the Epstein, citing the Justice Department's concession that laws on criminal procedure generally forbid unsealing grand jury testimony except in narrow circumstances, stating in her 12-page order, the court's hands are tied, and Justice Department requests driven by special circumstances and historical interest by the public aim to bolster claims that it had left no stone unturned, and noting since July 6, 2025, there has been extensive public interest on the basis for the memorandum conclusions. The decision frustrates the administration's efforts to address the pressure from the right-wing supporters demanding more Epstein-related disclosures. Is this the clip, Rob, about...
Yes, this is Caroline Levitt was asked if the Trump administration is going to appeal the judge's ruling.
Go for it.
Florida federal judge refused to allow the Epstein grand jury materials to be released. Does the president want the administration or Department of Justice to appeal that ruling?
That was just breaking as the director and I were coming out here, so I haven't had a chance to talk to the president about it. I understand there are 2 other requests from the Department of Justice that are ongoing, but I'll let this president speak to whether he wants to see an appeal in the Department of Justice. I'm sure can give you a statement on that as well.
And is he supportive of the effort to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell? I know that Todd Blanchard mentioned that earlier this week.
The president spoke to this yesterday, and he said he thinks it's an appropriate idea.
You know, obviously the developments with the Epstein case with the judge. But I wonder, has the White House counsel, the DOJ explored any other documents that could be released to the public that don't have to do with that grand jury testimony?
To my knowledge, the Department of Justice has moved forward with the request to unseal that grand jury testimony. And as you know, they have also moved forward with interviewing Ms. Maxwell, which I believe will be taking place very soon.
I feel bad for Caroline Levitt because she has no clue what's going on, meaning she has to get out there and sort of put on the charade as if she's involved. She has to sort of...
Well, I'm pretty sure she's
vocalize
she's
with the
brief.
Let's stay on the topic here. So instead of you being concerned for her, she's
we all
married,
are.
bro. So,
We all are.
all right, Roy Black, legendary defense attorney for Epstein, Justin Bieber, and Kennedy family, dies at 80. So Epstein's former lawyer just died. Obviously, he's 80 years old, but the story that comes out at the same time, you hear some other stories releasing that Bill Clinton wrote a letter also to Epstein for his 50th Daily Mail drops. Warm and gushing letter to Epstein as Trump sues over claim. He also wrote a body note of a pedophile half-century. This is Daily Mail story. And then on top of that, while this is going on, House panel votes to subpoena Bill and Hillary Clinton over possible links to Ghislaine Maxwell. All of these stories with Epstein are coming out. A lot of people are quiet about it. And then a BBC story drops. I don't know if you saw this BBC story that just dropped. White House pushes back after reports that Trump is named in the Epstein files. Did you see this one, Vinny?
I did not. I
Okay,
did not.
so this
see
is from BBC. White House, through spokesman Stephen Chung, dismissed reports that President Trump was informed in May by Attorney General Pam Bondi that the names appeared in the documents as fake news story, with Chung stating nothing more than a constitution of the fake news story concocted by the Democrats and the liberal media. Just like the Obama Russiagate scandal with President Trump was right about, the Wall Street Journal reported Bondi told Trump during a routine briefing that the files contained hearsay about many people, including Trump, but being named is not evidence of wrongdoing. FBI Director Kash Patel, the criminal leakers and fake news media tries tirelessly to undermine President Trump with smears and lies, but the story is no different. Vinny, your thoughts with the story on what's going on here?
The more and more they're trying to like distract us and put us over here and look over here. Listen, I hate to even say it, but maybe, just maybe, Elon Musk was right. Maybe Elon was right. What was it? Trump doesn't want it released because Trump is on that list or whatever. By the way, and again, this doesn't mean he did anything. He admitted, yeah, I knew him. Yeah, whatever. There's footage of him. There's footage of you hanging out with him, with Melania, with whatever person he was with. That's okay. Back then, everybody was hanging out. Everybody was chilling. You just don't want your name involved. This is the worst. You nailed it. The worst fumble. Just say, yes, I was around him. We were in Manhattan. We were all rich. We're all doing it. I didn't know what the hell to the extent of what he was doing. And once, he got convicted for pedophilia, that's when I broke everything off. Just because your name is in there doesn't mean you're guilty. Okay. And I think that's what they're trying to freaking cover up, because and Pat, not to go backwards, if you don't mind, the Barack thing, the Barack Obama, I think it's a distraction, but at the same token, why is everybody pissed off? Everybody in the View and everybody's mad. Oh, how dare you go after the next president? He's not untouchable. Look at the precedent they set with Trump, with everything that they did with Trump, Pat, from trying to arrest him for 100 years for Mar-a-Lago, this and all that shit. They shot him in the freaking head, and that no ex-president is untouchable. Okay, I can show you the mugshot of Donald Trump, okay? And then think about this. He tried to, Obama and them, if it's all factual, they tried to overthrow the government. We picked who we picked. We picked Trump, and they tried to undermine him. He used the FBI. He used the CIA, Pat. You know what they should have? Have a public trial. I don't give this Epstein stuff. Okay, have a public trial. Okay, and if he's guilty, put Obama's ass in jail for the rest of his freaking life. Okay, because people need to know, Pat, if this happens again and somebody comes in, they can look back and go, oh shit, let's not do it because Obama's in jail for this shit. And then we wonder why the trust for the government is at an all-time low, okay? It's at the worst it could possibly be. You want to gain it back? Then hold these people accountable. Put them on trial, and if they're guilty, put their ass in jail. The Epstein thing, I think, is the biggest freaking fumble, period. Remember, Adam, when we first started talking about this, 2 weeks ago? It's like, yeah, only losers, only whatever. Look where we are. It's the top of the news every single day. It's about this because it seems to me that they're covering it up. Something isn't right. And I keep going back to the children. We always worry about the people involved. It's the kids. And did you see this, Pat, Tom?
What's this?
Did you guys see this? This is a deposition where he's asked if Epstein had a personal relationship with Trump, and they say something about underage 18-year-old girls. And you tell me how you take away from this clip. Go ahead, Rob.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Have you ever had a personal
and now-
relationship
have
with
you ever, okay, so now, have you ever been around him with under 18? He grins, he smiles, and he goes, I wish I could, but I can't under the Fifth Amendment. Like if this is a video, let's just say that Trump is worried about coming out. I mean, it's going to come out. That could just mean, I wish I could just say, no, he had nothing to do with anything, but my lawyer has directed me, Tom. Everything has to be pled the Fifth.
So I'll tell you,
Go ahead.
Epstein is a scumbag.
100%.
We have all the things, and he got a sweetheart deal in Florida. But let's set that right. Okay.
Yeah.
There were 22 victims. There was, several charges, and then it got reduced, and he was given a minor charge of solicitation. That really happened. Epstein was a scumbag. Everybody agrees. But when you look at this, Vinny, I'm not defending him. I'm pointing out is how these processes work.
Yeah.
The reason he says no is if I say, no, I never did, they then in court find one picture of you and a girl that's under 18 that could be somebody else's daughter that was at the same party, and therefore you were socializing with Donald Trump with a girl under 18.
Yeah.
So you end up, whenever you're getting these narrow questions with a grand jury or a voluntary federal deposition, and I think this was the latter, people always take the Fifth through it, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, Your Honor, given that, I'd like to enter this into evidence and to bring this into court. So then the district attorney says, well, he denied all this. You're saying all this is true. You've got all these pieces of evidence. Okay, I guess we're going to court here. That's how this thing works. So this doesn't presume guilt on either side.
That's what I was trying to
This
say.
is how the process works. If you were deposed, Vinny, on something like this, your lawyer would be telling you, Vinny, just take the Fifth, take the Fifth, take the Fifth.
On everything.
Make them go into court and produce the witness that you bought the keg with your credit card to a party and you had underage cousins and people that were there and somebody got drunk and got hurt. They would tell you the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the process. I am not saying that Jeffrey Epstein is not a raging scumbag, or was.
Yeah.
The late.
Yeah.
Adam. So Russia, Epstein. Russia is Epstein. Epstein is Russia, in my opinion.
Finkel is Einhorn.
Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel.
Finkel.
That's what's going on here.
Got you.
Because there's a lot of similarities here. I'm not sure if you intentionally put these stories together, because I actually think there's a lot of synergy in what's happening here. Do you remember in 2016 what was happening? They're having these meetings. Russia, it's Russiagate. Stand by on the next episode of Russiagate. We were all glued to our TV, and admittedly, I fell for it. I'm like, this guy is a Putin puppet. The media said it. It must be true. Turns out the media will lie. We all
Tonight,
understand
the
that.
Steele dossier, this
Exactly.
reporter has seen.
So Trump was out there. It's fake news. It's a hoax. It's a witch hunt. Everyone's like, okay, Donald, sure, buddy, Putin puppet. Turns out Donald Trump was telling the absolute truth and nothing but the truth. But the media ran with it. Russia did try to interfere in the election. True. Trump campaign conspired with Russia. False. Paul Manafort. Remember we had Paul Manafort on the podcast? This was in the height of Adam's lunacy. I was like, this piece of shit, Paul Manafort. I'm going to expose. He came on here. I was like, what a guy. Nice guy.
Yeah.
Lobbyist. And that was like sort of the snowball effect. I was like, you know what? Maybe the media lied to me about this Russia thing.
They did more than that. Leslie Stahl had air cover from the White House, which she said, Donald, this is 60 Minutes.
Okay, Leslie Stahl. Yeah. She's
As
the one
if
who was,
she was speaking like a judge on
as
the
if she
federal
has the higher
district
ground
court.
here.
Right, yeah.
We know that the FBI had their own sort of agenda and they were seriously flawed. We know that the media got this story and completely ran with it, divided the country. Robert Mueller, he didn't say one freaking word. There's a lot of correlation what's going on with Epstein with Russia. We don't know what's true. We don't know what's false. We know that Donald Trump did hang out with Epstein. This isn't even a question.
I see the videos. Yeah.
There's pictures of them hanging out.
Yeah.
Just because you've hung out with somebody and you were named in some sort of lawsuit.
Yeah.
Buddy, I've hung out with Andrew Tate dozens of times. That doesn't mean I was sex trafficking women. That doesn't even mean that he was sex trafficking women. So we don't know what's true, what's false, what's media, what's a plant. This is why when our friend Sean Hannity came on, he said, listen, I'm just going to kind of sit back, relax, wait for the facts to play out. That's kind of where I'm at with this. I don't get embroiled in every single media story.
But Adam, don't you, and I'm being truth, but you're my brother. I love you to death. I want to know, don't you want don't you want accountability? Meaning,
course,
Adam,
Vinny, we all do.
no,
Yes.
Adam, I disagree. Not a lot of these people, no, they don't. Because Barack was this savior, the yes, we can, the BS artist. Okay,
Hope.
what they did, people want to talk about January 6th. To hell with January 6th. These people were like, he won. Let's create this fake story. So Hillary, go pay for this fake dossier and push it through the Department of Justice and what? To overthrow the government, to defy the will of the people, Adam. So when I say accountability, and I get what Sean Hannity was saying, it's going to take some time. Be patient. We've been patient from before JFK. Go to those people. You know what they told those people too? Be patient. Cut to 2025, Adam. Cut to 2025. They're still like, here are 10 more documents that don't say shit.
We're still waiting.
And
We're still
again,
waiting on
it's
JFK.
Adam. And I'll start with the Russia thing. How much shit did me, Adam, dude, my career, my friend, I've lost friends because they're like, you're with the Russia asset, Putin, blah, 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 blah. So zero accountability for that. And when it comes to Epstein, not one famous high-ranking pedophile scumbag is going to be dragged in front of the courts so we could see them. I want to see them. Why the hell was he going to the White House 17 times to see Bill Clinton? Explain that to me. What are they talking about? And when you walk into his house,
let me ask you, what do you think they were talking about?
Adam? He flew to his. He was
But
on
go-
the air.
But go there for a second.
Money,
The Epstein Clinton thing.
Okay,
What do you think actually
me
happened
personally, probably some money moving stuff. Probably some big. Because by the way, if you saw the interview with Daryl Cooper with the Tucker, say what you want about Epstein. He was very good at being a piece of you know what. Moving money, offshore accounts, probably some money stuff with the Clinton Foundation, which I think he was attached. And then Adam, maybe some girl
that's
stuff.
what money managers do.
But you ready for this? Adam, I believe Vincent O'Shannessy believes that it was something. Hey, listen, when you come to the island this time, I got you. I know how you like them and blah, blah. When you walk into his apartment in Manhattan, why is there a picture of him in a blue dress pointing right when you walk in?
Do you think
that means I got you,
Is there any
homie.
evidence that Jeffrey Epstein donated to the Clinton campaign?
Is there? I think there's a connection with him, with either Lex Wexner and him. Whatever it is.
Well, I'm just saying that a lot of
yeah.
times these big donors, what do they call them, mega donors, get preferential
Hey,
treatment.
Rob, if you could just look up what's the connection, what's Epstein's connection to
What do
Bill
you call
Clinton
them?
and the foundation?
Tom, what do you call it?
They're
because at the end of the
large bundlers. They call them bundlers.
And bundlers are what exactly?
Bundlers are people that know a lot of people who know a lot of people. So I work with 5 high-end people that each of them is taking money from, say, 10 millionaires. And so now that's 50 people represented by those 10 and then represented by me. So you create a paper trail that is hard to follow. And then all that money goes into a PAC very legally, but then nobody knows who got the money into the PAC. But now the PAC goes to do the will of the DNC. That is one of the flaws in the campaign finance, which is what people ask for campaign finance reform, eliminated the bundle.
Rob ChatGPT, Pat, about his. What was the question that you put in?
The question was, what are Jeffrey Epstein's connections to the Clinton Foundation? And here's what it gave.
Several points of connection from the finance
So he
Clinton
financed his
funding.
travel.
Go to number 2, Robbie. He helped conceive the Clinton Global Initiative, gave donations. So he besides what they were talking about him, and I'm not one of those.
So maybe, let me hear me out.
Go ahead.
We talk about signal and noise. Maybe the cornerstone of their relationship, we're talking about Clinton and Epstein for a second. Maybe the cornerstone of the relationship was genuinely
money,
political,
money,
and financial.
Yeah, but that stuff didn't happen until
This happened.
2002, and he
Yeah.
visited the White House 17 times between 93 and 95.
So
that's a lot.
Hear me
go
out.
ahead.
The foundation of their relationship was probably business,
Money.
political
Yeah, yeah.
money. And then there's ancillary stuff. Hey, by the way, when you come to the island, we're going to have a little party. We're going to have a little fun. And then little things like that happen. So there's like the meat, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the steak and then there's the sizzle.
Of course.
So the genuine steak was there was a business transactional relationship.
Yeah.
And then there's some ancillary stuff.
And you ready for
going
this
on.
though? And just off of history, Bill Clinton has been accused of sexual assault. Juanita Broderick said he attacked her in a freaking hotel room and ripped her lip off. Don't forget about his actions with Monica Lewinsky. Hold on, which was all consensual.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Adam, that's the type of guy that you want to do business with, and then bring him to your island, and then record him doing shit so you could have dirt
Allegedly.
on him. Allegedly. That's all
but
allegedly.
let me say one thing about Clinton. And I was a Clinton fan. I think you even voted for Clinton your first time, no?
I would have if I was
Clinton,
voting.
I think, was a great president. Meaning, as far as the numbers and the deficit and what basically where the country was in the 90s. But hear me out for a second. Everyone wants to go immediately like, because Bill Clinton got a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky. He's obviously a child sex trafficker. He's obviously likes underage women. I'm not there. I think Clinton, especially if you're married to Hillary, probably like to step out a little bit, blow off a little steam, not have to look at Hillary every single day, and maybe had some fun with extracurricular activity with ladies at Epstein Island or wherever. That doesn't mean that they were underage women, though. That's the problem I have. People are like, well, Clinton obviously likes underage women. It's like, what evidence do you have of that? There's a ton of evidence that he likes normal women, but no evidence that he likes underage women. And that's where things get so caught up in the gray area. It's like, where do we just go from
Virginia
Hillary
was
to underage women?
Guys, we could go back and forth on this. The question is, and it's an honest question all American is asking. You said, okay, well, why don't we just have them unseal the records? And then suddenly a judge, a district judge, and I think there's 94, I believe it's 94 districts in the United States and 13 circuit courts, also known as Court of Appeals. And the circuit courts, the 13 circuit courts, have the balls. They have the clout. And so you take one of these district judges from the Southern District of Florida, I think it is, District 2, and saying, I'm not going to unseal that. It's, wait a minute, this was coming from the federal government, coming from cabinet, saying, let's unseal it. And then a district judge says, no, we're going to leave it sealed.
Is this who didn't do it?
Yes, sir.
This is her.
She was appointed by Obama.
Yep.
Weird.
Yeah, but
Go a
Pat,
little bit lower.
But you see my point, Pat? This is a mid-level federal judge, and the Circuit Court of Appeals is above that. So it's like, wait a minute. Why do you have now district judge are real judges, but she's not like a Supreme Court justice.
You
It's
see what
like,
it says on the bottom, Pat? She declined to release additional grand jury
I know, we
documents.
just read that earlier.
Okay.
That's what we were reading.
and by the way, she's married
So-
to Florida State Attorney for Palm Beach County, Michael McAuliffe. Was he part of the Palm Beach County group
Tom, we read that earlier, bro.
that sent everything up?
Rob, can you click on who Michael McAuliffe is?
Yes, sir.
Go to that one. Adam, stay with us.
I'm right here with you, Pat.
Is he connected to the Palm Beach crew that sent
what's his
all the
background?
Epstein case
do
up to
this.
the
Can
federal?
you type that in ChatGPT, see who he is?
Where you at with all this, Pat?
Hang on. Let me just kind of go through this background with Michael. So this just totally...
It's so weird.
Senior prosecutor, for about 30 years. Southern District, Florida attorney, handling high-profile criminal honors and terms of...
Was he on any of the Epstein cases, Rob?
Prosecuted the Louisiana KKK Grand Dragon for hate crimes. Staged in the Palm Beach 2018. Led 125 prosecutions. Can you put in, is there any link between him and Epstein? Any link between him and Epstein? Any link between him?
They were
and
college
Epstein?
roommates.
Let's see what comes up.
He was the state prosecutor for Palm Beach County in 2008 when Epstein was.
So he was the prosecutor.
There's no documented personal and the only mention of McAuliffe is Epstein-related material appears in 2010 reference. Epstein's lawyer, Jack Goldberger, reportedly asked McAuliffe, then a state attorney, to drop certain charges, but this request doesn't indicate any deeper relationship or involvement. Moreover, there's no indication that McAuliffe ever assisted Epstein. Can you ask the same question on...
Why were they asking him? So why was
Ask the
Epstein's lawyer
same-
asking
I
him?
know.
Because he was on the team.
Hang on one second. Ask Grog the same exact question. Is there any connection between McAuliffe and Epstein? Rob,
you're so fast, Rob.
Zoom in a little bit for us 40-year-olds.
47, 47.
39.
Let's see what it says. Jefferson with a notorious financier. No, I'm trying to find out.
Yeah, come on, Grog.
What is
Wow.
all this Hitler answer? Come on,
Come
Gronk.
on, Grog.
Is it really taking this long, Rob?
Yeah, Super Grok takes a little bit longer for some.
there it
reason.
is.
There it is.
Yes, there is a professional connection between them. Which stemming from McAuliffe oversight of Epstein case in the year of 2008 plea deal. However, there's no publicly available evidence, friendship, financial ties on this. So Jeffrey Epstein, financier, convicted. Okay, Michael McAuliffe, go a little bit lower up, succeeding by McAuliffe had previously was stated McAuliffe involvement after the Epstein plea deal during Epstein's probation and house arrest period, which later lasted till 2010. Key events included Epstein's attorney, Jack Goldberg, requested that we already read that probation and release him from house arrest early. That request was denied. An email from Assistant Attorney Barbara Burns to McAuliffe described the situation as this dragon just keeps raising its ugly head and emphasized that Epstein was a registered sex offender that was fortunate to get a deal of the century Burns further noted that Epstein's team was pushing for leniency, but the office stood against it. McAuliffe's office was responsible for enforcing the terms of Epstein's supervision release, including decisions on his travel and work privileges. While McAuliffe did not negotiate the original 2008 deal, he inherited and managed its aftermath, the professional link that draws. Okay, so then he's married, particularly due to McAuliffe's marriage to Judge Rosenberg. In July, Rosenberg requested a grand jury transcript 2004. The citing issues social media in some reports alleged conflict, pointing to McAuliffe's prior role in the case and suggesting this is very interesting.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
It could influence decisions to keep records sealed.
Okay.
Weird.
So then if that's the case, so go back to that lady's Wikipedia, if you don't mind.
Sure.
You just had it a minute ago. Yeah, if you can go to hers.
Huh.
So she's appointed by Obama. Okay. She assumed office in 2014, which is the last 2 years of Obama.
Mm-hmm.
She's a Duke University person.
JD Duke, undergrad, Princeton.
Yeah. So if you're appointed by Obama and you don't want to release it, you're definitely not releasing it because you're trying to protect Trump. So why wouldn't you release it? And the conflict of interest with your husband, prior links to it? Very interesting. This is very interesting to me on why that's happening.
And it all leads back to it's all Florida. It all goes back to Florida, where this guy got a pedophile.
No,
got
Florida
a
didn't give
deal.
him the sweetheart
Well,
deal. When it was sent to I believe, the Southern District of New York, the Southern District allegedly was told, hey, this guy belongs to intelligence, and they reduced it to one charge of solicitation.
But it all stems from Florida, correct?
Well,
This
Florida
all
did
happened-
Florida
New
did the
York.
work, and then the federal government says, hey, let me take care of that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like when the FBI walks in on a local crime and says, hey, we'll take this over
Yeah,
now.
it's ours.
And
It's
the
our-
local sheriff says, we're perfectly
Well,
capable of investigating.
Who said that he was an intelligence asset?
Alex Acosta.
Did they say FBI? Because I think
No.
Laura Loomer mentioned FBI.
He's no.
in
He,
the
they
interview,
they
right?
said he belonged to intelligence, and I was told not to touch him, to leave him alone.
But I think they specifically said FBI. Did they not? Did
No.
Laura Loomer make that?
No.
Alex
Acosta said he
Acosta
belonged.
is the one that said it.
Yeah, and then when he was questioned, he goes, "I never said it." It's like, come on, bro.
Well, he said he did remember saying it, but he didn't know who told him
To
that
say-
Jeffrey
oh,
Epstein
yeah,
was.
it was a shot-
the old
intelligence.
telephone.
It was a guy in a shadow with a hat in the dark.
Listen, let's move on. Obviously, again, two things. You know, the more and more they keep coming back to these types of things, believe it or not, the more they're making it worse because they're not making it go away. So either say we're done with this, we're not coming back, or two, if you're claiming that you want this stuff to be leaked, do it ASAP and address it. But it keeps like every week. How many weeks we've been going through Epstein?
Almost three.
Every week we want to go through different stories. This thing reapers. Well, they said they're going to release him. The judge said no. Well, they said there's no. Versus like, hey, do something, make a decision, or just say you don't want this thing to be leaked. Or one of the two decisions.
We aren't
need to be
keeping it
made.
open, Pat. We're reacting
for sure,
to the
yeah.
news waves.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you
Our
what, it's the
listeners want
best
this.
show on TV right now.
I mean,
the Epstein
and
files.
now Epstein's lawyer is
renewing
dead.
for season 20.
Vinny, Epstein's lawyer died. You
Yeah.
know how he died?
Huh.
He drowned paddleboarding with Hillary Clinton after committing suicide by hanging on a palm tree at that same beach after he was shot.
Oh,
He was
That's a
also
joke,
80
folks.
something
It's a
years old.
joke,
and
everybody.
sick.
Telling a
He was
joke.
also 80 years old.
It's
and
not
sick.
even allegedly.
Yeah.
it's a joke.
Yeah, I bought Tom dad jokes, 3 of them on his birthday, and
dad
this
joke
was
book.
not in the book.
Yeah, no,
That was an original for
Great,
Tom.
great gift, bad decision.
Yeah, great gift, bad decision. I agree. All right, let's go talk about a state that we should constantly give proper recognition to. Let's talk about the number one state in unemployment,
Hey-o.
in homelessness, highest in taxes, and the one that keeps coming up with bad ideas.
Here, get the trophy ready.
California's $20 fast food minimum wage that they came up with, that everyone's like, oh my God, revolutionary. If California can do it, so can you. Well, before you try to be California with this $20 an hour minimum wage idea, watch these numbers closely. The $20 fast food minimum wage led to 18,000 fewer jobs. A National Bureau of Economic Research paper reported that California's $20 an hour minimum wage, enacted in September of 2023, effective in April of 2024, led to 2.7% employment decline. That's a big number in the fast food sector compared to other U.S. regions, with a median estimate of 18,000 jobs lost relative to counterfactual. Adjusting for pre-AB 1228 trends, the decline increases to 3.2%. The Employment Policies Institute estimated non-tipped restaurant workers lost 250 hours annually, equating to $4,000 in lost income or 7 weeks of work per employee. California Globe reported that thousands of fast food jobs were shed in anticipation of higher costs, including 1,200 drivers at Pizza Hut. After 1,200 drivers just at Pizza Hut. Holy moly. After the law took effect, restaurant automated to avoid higher wages, with some closing entirely. Stanford University data indicated over 10,000 fast food jobs were lost by June of 2024, a year ago. Despite the governor's office claimed job increase, a claim contradicted by federal data by the fall, California Gavin Newsom signed and defended the minimum wage law. Tom.
So guess what? Cause, meet, effect. So I take you back to New York City. Was it Michael Bloomberg that said fast food workers in New York City were going to get like $15 an hour? This goes back, Rob. This goes back a little while, several years. If we could find it really, 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 really fast. So Michael Bloomberg comes out and says, okay, minimum wage has to go up in New York, and it has to go up for fast food workers. You know, fast food workers have to get a minimum, a living wage. Really, 16-year-old kid flipping burgers part-time after school needs by law to have a living wage. Are you kidding me? So anyway, guess what that led to? Kiosks.
Oh, he's
kiosks.
the guy.
So suddenly you went into McDonald's. You ever been to McDonald's and
It's a
just
robot.
go,
It's a
and just
machine.
you go up to the wall. It's like a kiosk. And by the way, it's the same thing that happens. And everybody was screaming 20 years ago when Southwest Airlines was one of the first to put kiosks in airports. Wait, what about the workers? To all of us who used to fly planes, what about the damn lines?
Yeah, exactly.
This is easier. I like this. So guess what's happened? California puts in this, and guess what? You have cause and effect. Combination of Pizza Hut, some of them said we can't even operate. So group one, Pizza Hut, we can't even operate. We're closing some of them. And we also, and thanks to crime in Oakland, everyone closed all of them, right? Then you would now have all of these other people where the decision in New York that led to the kiosks getting into McDonald's, this accelerates adoption of kiosks. This accelerates automated food handling back on the grill. That's what this does. Because capitalists go, if I'm going to be forced to take these workers and go to $20, I'm not, my cost structures aren't made for that. And by the way, if property taxes are going on, what is that Pizza Hut sitting on? California dirt that has California property tax. So you start adding it all up, and suddenly, if you're just looking for votes, you put the $20 minimum wage out there. But if you're looking for burgers, that's not what you want to do, because pretty soon burgers are harder to find because they're closing. That's what's happening here. And you're also seeing faster adoption of kiosks, like when New York City came out and said, Michael Bloomberg, President of 2020, supported $15 an hour minimum wage, but his stance on minimum wage has evolved over time because donors that said, hey, man, I own 10 McDonald's. You're not going to see a penny in your election fund, Shorty, unless we can do something about this minimum wage. It's hurting me.
Shorty.
And so that's what happened. But the kiosk accelerated in McDonald's after New York came out and said this, because capitalists look, hey, man, I'm not trying to run these kids out of my McDonald's. Whatever is the best, most cost-effective way to get burgers to the person standing there with their $10 bill, I want to do it. And if you're going to make me do minimum wage here, then I'm going to look at it and say, well, the airline's putting kiosks. Maybe I'll put in kiosks. That's all that happened. And suddenly this is some evil capitalist thing, and no one's talking about the National Bureau of Economic Research. All they needed to do was to point out who was the guy that led this. So they're saying fast food leads to fewer jobs. So they're talking about fewer jobs and are talking about this impact. Talk about the leader that has caused this. And this is Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is reduced, and he'll come out, take credit to Healthier California, because I've been slowly eradicating the scourge that is fast food on our diets. He'll take credit for it in some way.
Adam, your thoughts on this?
So minimum wage, this is a discussion I think that gets people very riled up and emotional, because this is one of those issues where emotionally I was like, pay these people more. Years ago when I first started doing all the Save That Money content, I went down to downtown Miami. There was a Fight for 15 parade, basically, about fighting for 15. Now, it's interesting. The conversation has shifted to the fight for 20. And I felt so bad for these fast food workers. They're the people that work at the airports, the people that work, sort of the menial jobs that nobody wants to do. And I felt so bad for these people. But interestingly enough, this is what Pat always talks about. Not a lot of them spoke English. I didn't see a lot of them who are looking to improve or basically saying, I'm trying to do better in my life. They just said, pay me more, pay me more, pay me more. So on the surface, you're like, oh, okay, I feel bad for these people. But when you peel back the onion, you peel back the layers, and you actually look at it from the small business perspective, which I appreciate. I've learned so much sitting next to PBD. You realize this. All these raises are just going to get passed on to the consumer as a tax, basically. So your hamburger is going to cost more. Prices to basically go out and eat at restaurants are going to cost more. The small business owner will probably cut staff or cut hours, reduce hours. You talked about automation. You talked about kiosks. There's also a ripple effect of why it leads to inflation. Because let's say you're making 20 right now, and there's people who are at 15 that are fighting for 20. And the people at 15 get the 20. You're at 20, you're this person's manager. You're going to say, all right, well, you just gave this guy 20. I want 25 now. I want 30 now. And because now this person got for their 15 to 20, now your 20 is going to go to 25. So everything is going to get inflated. And the small business owner is going to say, what the hell's going on here? They're going to pass the higher pricing on to you, or they're going to go out of business, which you've seen so many times in California. And then you had that one lady in California who said basically, fight for 15, fight for 20, I'm fighting for 50. And do some simple math. $50 an hour is $100,000 a year. So now you're flipping burgers, making 100 G's.
And
Do
a
the math
Happy
on
Meal
that.
is a very unhappy $22.
It's very true.
Very sad.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's so funny. A guy sends me a manact about, well, let me tell you, here's what I'm going through, and this is what I'm doing. I'm like, read these 4 books. Yeah, but aside from reading those books, what can I do to make more money and all this? I said, go to business conferences. Yeah, but aside from going to the business conferences, and what do I need to? I want to know the real secret. I said, have better friends that offer better peer pressure to you, where you're the lowest earner out of all your friends. Never be the biggest earner. Yeah, but I want the real secret.
Excuses.
I'm like, buddy,
bro,
listen, I'm not the guy for you.
Yeah, there's no secret.
If you want minimum wage to increase, and you're making the argument about it being unfair, how are you recreating yourself and improving yourself? What new skill set are you picking up? How are you getting better? How are you changing this mindset of it's everybody else's fault instead of you taking responsibility? What are you doing about it? I had a guy I was talking to, and he's like, man, what do I do to make more money? This guy's over 300 pounds. I said, lose 60 pounds. You're 60 pounds away from making more money. What do you mean? I said, dude, you realize your body was built to be 180.
Yeah.
You know how impossible, what you're doing is called doing the impossible. How many people whose body was built to only have 180 pounds can go around all day carrying a 120-pound dumbbell? That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I said, you're doing the impossible. I said, it's impossible for you to compete with somebody else that's 60 pounds lighter than you. You want a career promotion? Yes, lose 60 pounds. Oh, that's harsh. No.
It's the truth.
It's the truth. Well, I'm having a hard time finding girls. Are you surprised? And you know what's always a confusing thing? It's like, hey, why doesn't she like me? Can we introduce her to me? I'm like, bro, you're 300 pounds.
Yeah.
What do you mean she doesn't like you? Well, Biggie was 300 pounds. Biggie was a rapper. Bro.
Biggie was the best rapper alive.
Biggie was a rapper.
You broke 3 of her ribs giving her a hug.
He got. Did you see the types of girls they got? Girls.
Biggie.
Yeah. No, you're not Biggie. Okay.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
You're
not.
hugey.
Yeah. But let me listen. As much as I'm having fun with this,
Yeah, but still,
as much as I'm having fun with this, I'm 23 years old, $49,000 in debt. Nothing's going right in my life. Bad relationship. Just the girl I wanted to marry doesn't work out. And I'm by myself asking me, would you allow your future daughter to marry you? And the answer was a unanimous hell no. And then what happened? I changed. I made changes. What was the most basic change? I wouldn't stop reading business books. What was the other change? I kept going to business events. I'm talking to Tony last week, Tony Robbins. I said, Tony, I went to UPW at 21 years old, Long Beach. I went to a Tony Robbins conference at 21 years old, 25 years ago. And let me tell you what happened. I go to this event. I'm attending it, right? I'm like, oh, my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to this place. So I go. I'm at Long Beach Convention Center, and I'm sitting next to a guy. Craziest thing happens to me. I'm sitting next to a guy. So I'm trying to, why are you here? And I'm
once again, they're talking about Ripple competing against Swift. I think it's pretty clear to see Ripple is trying to bring Swift to its knees. They're trying to bring them to the negotiating table. I think they're going to be successful in that. I really do. And once again, watch that Swift deadline that's coming up. I believe it's in September. It's going to tell us a lot. If a lot of companies do not comply, if they simply pay the fine, if they don't comply with what Swift is saying to get on board with, then they're waiting on something. Then the next question is, what are they waiting on? But wait, this article is titled this, and they actually give a little bit of information. It's interesting for those of us who like to dissect this type of information. This article is titled How Ripple is Taking on Swift to Grab 14% Market Share as XRP price surges. We heard about this before, the whole 14%. Brad Garlinghouse came out and he was talking about attempting to do that. I know that he's lowballing that number. They intend to do much, much more than that. Why would you cap yourself? It's not a cap. They're just giving you a roundabout, very, very safe estimate of what they believe they can do. If that's the safe estimate, then what's the unsafe estimate, right? All right, so let's move on here. Let's go back down here, because when we scroll down this article here, it gets a little interesting. Now listen to this. It says in the Philippines, for instance, they're talking about Ripple and, XRP and usage. In the Philippines, for instance, Union Bank has become the first fully licensed virtual asset bank and has adopted RippleNet and ODL to support faster inbound transfers. Now, as I'm reading this, I want you to let your mind run. Let your mind work. And you tell me what's interesting about this. They're focusing us. Whenever someone tries to focus me on one particular aspect, I ask myself, what is it that they don't want me to see? What is it that they may be taking focus away from? I don't know how to convey this. I always feel like there's something that they don't want me to see, or that they're negating. There's something more potent than this. This is just the obvious. Let's continue on, and then I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I'll explain to you what I mean by that. It says, in the Philippines, for instance, Union Bank has become the first fully licensed virtual asset bank and has adopted RippleNet and ODL to support faster inbound transfers. China Bank, another bank in the Philippines, in collaboration with Qatar National Bank, has implemented XRP-backed transfers to eliminate intermediary banks for transactions between Qatar and the Philippines. All right. Sounds pretty good so far, right? In India, I like how they structure this. I'll say that. I do. They went from Philippines to India. In India, major private banks like Yes Bank and Axis Bank are using XRP to support the live remittance corridors linking the country to Southeast Asia, Mexico, and Brazil. They keep going. This is a good article. Interestingly, Ripple is also deepening its reach in Brazil. They've been in Brazil a long time. I hate to break it to you, article writer. I'm not saying that they've unveiled all their partnerships in Brazil, but they've been working there a long time. Ripple is in Brazil. I believe Stellar also is in Brazil. Algorand has some reach in Brazil also. But let's continue on. Travelex Bank in Brazil, the first FX-focused bank licensed to use on-demand liquidity in the region, relies on XRP to remove the need for pre-funded liquidity. In Mexico, I'm glad they touched on Mexico. Let's see what they have to say. In Mexico, Ripple's partnerships with the local non-bank financial entities support real-time payouts using XRP. Also, don't ever forget, in Mexico, that's where they first tested offline QR code payments, one, and that's also where this is what I remember, and also where they first tested payroll. Oh, that payroll. Why doesn't anybody want to talk about that? You don't think payroll for all of these big companies, small and medium-sized companies, in addition to that, you don't think that that's trillions of dollars globally? You think they worked on payroll for nothing? I'm keeping my eye on payroll. That's all I have to say about that. So let's continue on here. says, even in the Middle East, who wrote this article? This is a good article. Even in the Middle East, they're showing the takeover. This is a little. That's why I want people to notice. This is a little. This is not even 25% of what Ripple has done. If you've been here for a long time, you've heard bank names. They didn't cover what they're doing in Australia. They didn't cover what they're doing in United Kingdom. They didn't cover what they're doing in Europe. Why didn't they mention the company that is on the XRPL and they're using, obviously they use XRP. XRP, everything that's on the XRPL affects XRP, utilizes XRP to some degree. And the ECB, I believe the central bank, is working with a company that uses XRP. Why didn't they mention that? There's so much that's going unsaid. It shows you how much Ripple and these companies using XRP are doing. They didn't even mention, and I know this is just right here. Let me refocus. This is in correlation with them going against Swift. I get it. Okay. All that other stuff is important. If you're an article writer, you have to understand most people are interested in XRP for what it does overall. That's going to lend to that price exploding, not just them competing with Swift, although that's a massive thing. If they could take a huge percentage of business from Swift, value from Swift, but XRP treasuries, RWA, interbank payments outside of them competing with Swift, with banks that might not be a part of that system. All of that is interesting to those who are like myself. It says even in the Middle East, where regulatory compliance is very rough, institutions with like Lulu Exchange, Zandbank, and Mamo have adopted Ripple's payment infrastructure for regulated settlements, largely focused on APAC, APAC, and global remittance corridors. Okay, and once again, and then you can look up all of these names. You can look at their financials, and I'm going to assume, I haven't done it yet, I'm going to assume it might be easier now to get your hands on that information than it was years ago when we did it, when there was no AI. We literally had to go on the website, search through the website, which could be very tedious, get the documents, open them up, scan through them, and look for the powerful information. Now, I would assume that people could maybe, if so, this would be great. And it should have this capability, I think. If you can go onto like the whatever AI that you use, if people use AI and just ask them how much value moves through this or that, or I don't know if it can do that, but I would try it. And maybe you can get the numbers that way. And once you know how much value is moving through these banks, that gives you a pretty good idea. Once again, they didn't cover any of the major institutions. These are good institutions. They didn't cover the big ones, right? That really could move XRP. All right, and that's where they leave it off. Well, that was a good article. I'll tell you that right now. This is coming from Bitcoinist.com. So they didn't even go over the potentiality of what Ripple, the connections Ripple has in the United States. That's major. Major. Once they start coming out with announcements about the various banks utilizing XRP in the United States, I think they all know. This is why they're holding it back heavily. That's going to move that price. It's not about retail. I'm telling you. When the companies hear that, they're going to say, uh-oh, they just made it too bullish. They're going to start gobbling XRP up. They're already trying to do that with their XRP treasuries. And that price will explode. Everyone's going to know, oh, the environment has gotten super bullish now. They'll start gobbling XRP up. That price will start skyrocketing, in my humble opinion. And that's without the utility fully kicking in just yet. That's without interbank payments. That's without RWA. But it's up to you to watch, not financial advice, okay? It's for you to watch. You have to take the time, a little bit of research each week. Read a couple articles, put that in your Google News algorithm, your Yahoo News algorithm, and it's going to be very observable. They can't hide it now. XRP's too big. Ripple's too big. SBI's too big. That news is going to hit. And when it does, a lot of entities are going to make a move. So now, we have that. I want to show you something else that's interesting. And I think they're going to dominate Swift. Swift is over. What you know of as Swift is over. They cannot operate the way that they used to. So something new must be born so that the powers of the world can continue in a fashion that they're used to. If not, they're in trouble. And the system, once one domino in the system falls, all the dominoes will begin to fall. Look at this. This article is titled, Bank of England could mothball digital pound program. That is very suspicious. Just the consideration of that. It said could. It doesn't say that it will. Could. Why would that be even a consideration? What has changed this year that would even make them contemplate mothballing or doing away with the digital pound project? Well, one thing that definitely has changed is the bank coins have been unleashed globally. Better and better regulations and legislations being rolled out around the world so everybody can use bank coins the way that they're supposed to. And one of the ways that they can be used is to have a stable coin that benefits. Look at stable coins. Let's call it what it is. Stable coins are a stripped down basic CBDC. I'm not the one who said that. I didn't invent that. That's what the Fed said. The Fed came out with paperwork that should still be on the internet and accessible today, readable by anybody today. They came out with that about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. Everybody was reading it back then. All right. That's what a stable coin is. So because a stable coin doesn't have the power and the features of a CBDC, it can still benefit from the native tokens. It can get that from XRP. It can get that from Solana. It can get that from XLM. It borrows their powers, wearing them like some costume. So if the stable coin needs liquidity, you have the stable coin here, XRP here, or you have the stable coin here. You have XRP in the middle. The stable coin runs into XRP for liquidity. The value is moved from the stable coin to XRP. Then it borrows XRP's speed and low cost, moves something across the world, and on the other side, it comes out. The XRP is and the value that it holds from the stable coin is converted back into whatever fiat currency on the other side. That's what changed, right? Can we be honest? That's what changed. So it may give them pause. A lot of these institutions pause and say, wait a minute, because once again, some of them were foolish and they're trying to do their own heavy lifting, even though the BIS itself said, hey, listen, we don't want to do the heavy lifting. Let's let the private sector do the heavy lifting. We'll just run everything. And we think that's the way that it should be for all major banks. Well, some of them didn't listen and they're still struggling along. And they've realized they haven't done enough in time. So maybe, just maybe, not maybe they continue forward with this, but just maybe they say, you know what? All right, let's just do it another way. There's a better way. And if you don't think that Ripple or Quant, who works with Bank of England majorly, and remember with the Quant system, although everything in the Quant system affects Q and T, that's going to be a major thing. Not too many people talk about Q and T. It has so much potentiality. It's unbelievable. But Quant system also works with XRP. Did people forget? XRP is one of the first digital assets that the Quant system works with. I think the first few were, from what I remember years ago, was XRP, Ethereum, and XDC. I think that's what it was. Was it XDC? I believe it was. So it works with XRP. So either way, if they want to use Ripple systems, if they want to use the XRPL directly, which I doubt it, because looking at what the Bank of England has done, or they want to use Quant system because they've been working extensively with Quant, but still they could use XRP. Once again, the whole liquidity and all of that, they're not going to be able to beat XRP. And even though Q&T price, I expect at some point, once again, not financial advice, just my humble opinion. Let me speak for myself. All right. Even though Q&T price is probably going to explode astronomically in the next 2 years, 3 years or so. I'm talking about astronomically. It should. If it does what it's supposed to do, we shall see. I could be wrong on that. I'm not an absolutist. I'm not a know-it-all. But even with that, nothing I don't think is going to beat XRP when it comes to global liquidity. They're out front. Everybody else has to play catch up. This is the fact. They have so many connections to big businesses, small, medium-sized businesses. They've talked about that. They talk about RWA. They've made strides towards these things. They have a connection with a ton of central banks. They've made strides towards these things. They have done the most. Besides them and Chainlink have done the most. It's undeniable. So you still want to tap into that liquidity. If I'm Bank of England, I'm going to work with the best of the best. I don't want, if I do go with using a stable coin, and Ripple has talked about making stable coins for other fiat currencies other than the US dollar, which is smart. I was trying to convey that in one video recently. I probably didn't say that as eloquently as I should have, as I could have. But some days I have rough days. Today is a rough day. Some days my mind is just cruising and it's smooth and all the thoughts are coming out perfectly. And then you have days like today, which was a hard day. So stress gets to me sometimes. And a lot of things, stress me out. It's a hard day. And then it makes it difficult for me to convey my thoughts but that's what I was trying to convey. I do my best that I can at those times. But anyway, I will work with the best of the best. I don't want to take any chances. I don't need my stable coin to be depegged, but I still need those low transaction fees. I still need to be able to send a payment in pieces, but have it count as one. You can do that on XRPL with XRP, but you can only use XRP. That's what people don't get. Some of these mechanisms on XRPL, you can only use XRP. I don't understand why people don't get that. But if that does indeed happen, which these are the best offerings that the XRPL has, the advanced mechanisms that Ripple was talking about, XRP's price is going to go galactic, period. It's going to go galactic. And once again, I know that's hard to believe for a lot of people. I don't need them to believe it. I just need XRP's price to do what it does. Like that makes we don't need people to believe. We just need that price to do what it does. The truth is the truth, whether people like it or not. And we all know from history, a lot of people don't like the truth. They like a sweet lie rather than a harsh truth. That's just what it is. But the truth of the matter, in my humble opinion, is that that price should go galactic. So once again, let's circle back around. Bank of England could mothball digital pound project. Maybe they're looking at using Q&T system. Quant has been in their ear for years. Ripple has been in their ear for years. Q&T system can utilize XRP. They can move XRP. We shall see. Keep a close eye on this, folks, and we'll see how this all works out. So now, this article is titled, "This Isn't a Top." Here's why Bitcoin analysts say Bitcoin will break $123,000. It's inevitable, in my humble opinion, but it begins here. Several Bitcoin on-chain metrics are suggesting that Bitcoin's market structure remains strong and the bull cycle has more room to run. I agree with that. I don't know how anyone sees anything else, unless they're in love with the negative. They're in love with things being dramatic and that adrenaline rush when things are chaotic. But there's a balance to everything. You have your chaotic time period. Then on the flip side, and change is the only constant, and everything tries to reach a state of balance. On the flip side, you're going to have times where things are pretty stable to a degree, and if not in price, right? Let's negate the stability in price idea. Put that to the side. There's stability in the catalyst, and because of that, it's going to show you constant resilience. Have we seen that? Yes. So right now it's showing at the time of this article, Bitcoin is in the red at $117,000, $117,621. That's still resilience. It's going higher. $123,000 is easy at this point. That's easy. That's nothing. And it's climbing little by little by little, but it's still climbing, right? And if it can do that, then we know crypto is known for its explosions. Those explosions don't stop because Bitcoin reached this amount of value. There's a ton of companies that haven't gotten in yet. A ton of states that want Bitcoin, they haven't gotten in yet. So the potentiality for the future is still huge. $123,000 is nothing. But let me continue to read this here. It says Bitcoin remains pinned below $120,000 after reaching a fresh all-time high near $123,000 last week. As Bitcoin price consolidates, numerous market analysts are convinced that the cycle is not over. I agree with that. I don't believe it's over. Bitcoin fundamentals remain strong. I love it when they use these technical phrases, and then you got a lot of people they're casual partakers in crypto. They don't know what this stuff means. They're coming home tired from work. Let's just be real, folks. They're coming home tired from work. They don't have time for research. Their children, they got to take care of them. They're tired from that. Run them to school. They're tired from that. They're running their business. They're tired from that. Everything is wearing them out. They don't have time to learn about these type of things. But Bitcoin fundamentals, just say catalyst. The people know what that means. Or you could say, just speak plainly to the people. Bitcoin is looking good. So they'll know. I don't know. This is my humble opinion. It says analytics firm, and it's true. Bitcoin is looking good. That puts them at ease. They can relax, kick their feet up. They just came from the doctor. Oh, Bitcoin is looking good. Bitcoin's doing good. Okay. And they sit back in their recliner chair and they can relax and have that stress relieved from their mind. They don't need to guess. My humble opinion. Analytics firm Bitcoin Vector said that although Bitcoin's momentum has slowed, multiple on-chain metrics suggest that Bitcoin cycle is not over. Quote, momentum has cooled, but structure and fundamentals remain solid, unquote, the firm said in a Tuesday post on X, adding, quote, this isn't a top. It's a coiled setup with support beneath it. The Bitcoin fundamental index remains strong, reflecting increasing network growth and liquidity as shown in the chart below. With Bitcoin price compressed, quote, fundamentals are pausing, not weakening. I could agree with that. That makes sense. Said Bitcoin Vector, adding, quote, it's the price that needs to catch up. I like this. This was some pretty good articles today. I wish that my mind was flowing a little bit smoother so I could have maxed out these articles today, to be quite honest, and really dive into them with the fullness of my perspicacity. But every day is different. In the short term, buyers should simply be waiting for confirmation of the breakout as Bitcoin plays the, quote, structural anchor for the whole crypto market, said private wealth manager Swiss Block. They're all waiting to feast on Bitcoin. Once again, I want to reiterate, folks, do I believe this is going to go on forever? No, I'm not saying that. Not at all. But over the next year and a half, I think Bitcoin has great potential to explode to new highs that most can't fathom. That's number one. Number two, keep your eye on the catalyst and make your own decisions. Be safe out there. Make your own decisions. If you watch the catalyst, it's going to tell you when things are going up. It's going to tell you when things are going down. When you start to see most of the businesses are into Bitcoin, that's when I will start to say to myself, it's about to be over. Those know that there's going to be volatility because the companies are going to flex their muscles. They're going to manipulate the markets. They're going to sell. Their friends can get in. 72% of businesses are not into Bitcoin. I think that's just in the US alone. So the companies who are in heavy, they have associations with those other companies. They will sell just to bring the price down. Those other companies will buy in. That's what was it Sentiment and all those professional companies that watch who's buying crypto. That's what they're exposing when they show that prices go down. Some mysterious companies are buying tons of Bitcoin. Why do you think the price went down? Those other companies brought it down because they're in cahoots, for lack of a better word, with these other companies and making way for them. That's going to continue. So expect there to be volatility and there to be dips and maybe even some corrections. I don't know how severe, but it will be temporary because they all want to run that price up. So as you see that percentage of companies rising that's into Bitcoin, and you see the percentage going down who are out of Bitcoin, it go, 72% are not into Bitcoin. Then it goes to 60%, 50 and 40 are not into Bitcoin and 30. And you're like, wait a minute now. There's a lot of them getting into Bitcoin. Let me start to be careful, because then the potential for that wave of money, it shows that wave of value, a lot of it has entered into Bitcoin. I start to ask some questions at that point. Observation is going to be very important, I think, for each individual. That's the best I can say. Unless you have a researcher working for you, a financial analyst working for you, who could help you stay abreast of these things. But if not, you're going to have to do it yourself. All right. So Bitcoin is looking good. Bank coins are looking good. I'm going to go relax right now, folks. I hope you're doing the same. What a day. Holy smokes. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.
the only one that have enough credit and credibility being around Yellow, being that I pulled him off the porch to tell this story. And we all know what the rumors were, this, that, and the other. But like I said, I was there. So I'm going to give y'all the real story. So as far as the rumor y'all heard, it is true. In my opinion, CMR, Cash Money Records, is responsible for Yellow Boy's death. And a close affiliate of theirs, who goes by the name of Hot Diesel, is the one who carried out the hit.
So Hot Beazle carried out the hit, but this is where the Rico part jumps in. Let's go.
Cash Money Records orchestrated the hit on Yellow Boy, and Hot Diesel carried the hit out. So some of y'all might say, well, we already heard that, but let me give y'all some receipts. So y'all know years ago, we had it popping off the chain. We had the city on lock, having it our way. Eventually, we will come to odds with Cash Money because we started seeing money going into their pockets, into their bank account, and seeing stuff that they was buying, and it wasn't adding up to the checks that they was writing to us. They was giving us money, but it wasn't what we deserved. They was giving us kind of on the cool. We was getting what we asked for, but we didn't know better. We wasn't getting what we earned. And later on, down the line, we will find that out in a court battle. So during this time, y'all was doing his thing, but like I said, I pulled Yellow off the porch. And pretty much we had a drug habit, but you couldn't tell us that something was wrong with us because we had so much money. And that's one of the most dangerous drug addicts that can exist, is a drug addict with money. One thing is being on drugs and don't have money. That's going to lead you to robbing, stealing, and killing. But when you're a drug addict with money, you don't think nothing wrong with you. We still came outside every day with ballet shoes and polos and jabots and jewelry and fly cars, nice houses, but we had drug habits. And when I say receipts, I mean receipts because my city can back what I'm saying. As all this going along, we started asking questions about our royalty checks, and tensions begin to rise. So me being the cool head and the one that likes to calculate before I react, I used to always tell Yellow, just chill, man. We gonna figure it out and do it how we have to do it and get our bread. But Yellow, who was a little hot-headed, well, he was real hot-headed. He wasn't having that. So Yellow used to challenge Baby, aka Birdman, all the time and test his gangster, and Birdman would test his gangster, and them two would clash a lot. So during this time, most of the time when things would get too far, I get tired and get fed up and be like, man, I'm about to go get myself clean, this, that, and the other. And during this time, things had got real heated with us, and I decided that I wanted to go to the rehab and be like, fuck it, man, let me clean myself up.
But you asked for that money. And basically they gave it to you. So if y'all would have lost money, aka they would have lost money, would you have taken a smaller cut? No. So that's business. It's risk and reward. You guys more than likely was cool with a guarantee. So y'all basically on some stuff where it's like this. Hey, we're going to do this and we're going to get paid and we're going to be good. But the problem with that is it sounds like they might have found out a little bit more or paid a little bit more attention. Let's keep on going.
And things had got real heated with Birdman and Yellow, and they had a verbal altercation, and Yellow took it up on himself and rode around Birdman's house in New Orleans East and shot up a bunch of cars, 3-4 cars. So I got the phone call that he shot up 2 cars, this, that, and the other. And, he kind of was on the move, and we wasn't talking to each other at this time because I was real pissed off with him. So if anybody in my hood know Yellow, they would know that he was a mama's boy, the only child, and he had a little greed with him. And his greed would kind of ultimately cost him his life because Yellow had them went behind our back and booked the show at Warren Easton without us. And, Warren Easton was his alumni. So on the night he booked the show at Warren Easton, he went and did the show. And after he did the show, you know, the mark was already on his head. You feel me? So now this where the snake shit come in at. You feel me? So my receipts are that OG Giggity was initially summoned to do it, but to give him a little credit, he didn't want to touch it. But to take that credit right back away from him, he passed that shit on to Hot Beezer. And I'm gonna tell you how I know for sure Hot Beezer pulled it off. So on this night, Yellow used to hang with this little dude, Manfield. Rest in peace, Manfield. Manfield dead right now. After Yellow was shot and killed that night, you know, by me knowing he hang with Manfield, that was the first person that I started looking for to find out what's going on, because I knew for a fact he was with Manfield. So word on the street, take looking for Manfield, take looking for Manfield. And Manfield was dodging me. So, you know, instead of making my rounds, mind you, I'm just left the rehab, but I done relapsed again. I'm back on dope because my nerves bad and something off. So I finally catch Manfield on 6 and LaSalle by Julio Stowe sitting on the ground full of that dope. I run up on him and give him a 2-piece and some fries. Pop, 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 pop. He dodging me for what happened to Yellow. So when I pressed Manfield, Manfield told me, yeah, I was with Yellow, but he picked up Hot Beezer, and Hot Beezer made Yellow put Manfield out the car. Yeah, straight up, real receipts. So once I learned that, I just like, okay, I'm gonna play it cool. But I'm so invested and so addicted to drugs, you know, that would be my first order of business every day. You know what I'm saying? Where the real receipts came in at, because it could have just been Manfield word against his, but I doubt it, because why would Manfield just make up a cockamamie story like that? So what made me know for sure that he did pull his snake ass shit off is because a little bit before that, Baby, aka Birdman, brought me to this car dealership out there in New Orleans East on Bullitt. I think it was a Ford, Bond Ford, or if it wasn't that, but it was on Bullitt. And he cashed me out a red Ford Mustang, right? So once he cashed me out, he left. So I built a relationship with the salesman. Boom, 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 boom. We got the car, blah, blah, blah. Bam. I'm swinging and banging in the car. A couple of months had passed, and I was like, I'm gonna go trade this car in. So when I go trade the car in, and I walk into the car lot, he was like, "Oh, what's up, Tech? Your man's just left here buying one of his little homies a truck." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who it was?" He couldn't tell me who it was, because at the time, who the fuck knew who Hot Beezer was? You know what I'm saying? Nobody knew who he was. Remember Hot Beezer? We the ones that put your name in songs. Psycho Skeeter, Uncle Larry Hurricane Cup, they come from Gangsta Cocoa Peanuts, who they all got pumps. Yeah, nigga. Remember that? Your name was Psycho before it was Hot Beezer. We put you in songs and you snake my little partner. But anyway, once I learned that, I go uptown, I see Hot Beezer with a brand new Toyota. So I'm like, oh, so that's who Birdman bought the truck for. Now, mind you, Hot Beezer had no affiliation with us, Cash Money. So there's no logical reason that Birdman would take him to the car lot and buy him a car. There was no way that he could have earned that money. He didn't carry no boxes. He didn't put up no posters. He didn't do no road work. He didn't do nothing. He just came out the blue and went to the car lot with Birdman and was bought a Toyota truck. So that confirmed it for me. But I been knew that Hot Beezer was a snake, because way back then, even when we was like little kids, and you know how you sit on abandoned steps and you spray paint your name on the house, he would sneak around there at night and scratch our name out and scratch 4th Street on the motherfucking house. You know, just some dumbass hating that shit. And then fast forward, we still would put their names in songs. Nobody know who Mosquito, Gangster, Psycho, none of these boys was until UNLV put their names in songs. We made them neighborhood superstars. And then we the ones took y'all outside the hood and let y'all see the city and other cities outside the city. And you turn back around and snake a nigga like that. But like I said, you've been a snake. And mind you, this wasn't the first time that he shot Yellow Boy. One night after Corn Dance, he clowning around showing off for some hoes, and he's shooting at the ground, telling Yellow to dance, dance, nigga, dance, showing out for these hoes, and he hit Yellow in the ankle. So that was the first incident. And I always told Yellow, man, why the fuck is you going outside the hood hanging with these outside ass niggas? They just looking for clout. You know what I'm saying? We already done gave these niggas clout by putting their names in songs. You feel me? So it is what it is. Now, let me give y'all the reason why I decided to expose these niggas. For one, I'm tired of the city the city of New Orleans and every other city holding on to this secret like these niggas, the motherfucking mob or something. Man, fuck them boys. Real talk. I lost a partner. You feel me? They human just like I'm human. You feel me? You know, the city holding on to this shit, these boys, and what pisses me off is y'all let these niggas come in the city and play in y'all face every time they got some kind of event in the city. These niggas show up in the city, gather a bunch of motherfuckers to come hang around them to make them look good. And all you up and coming rappers, they promise y'all they gonna fuck with y'all and get y'all a deal, this, that. I'm just tired of nigga playing in the nigga face, you know, all that old hoe ass shit. And I'm gonna hold you niggas accountable, man. You dig what I'm saying? I'm holding you niggas accountable. Y'all responsible for my nigga debt, and I ain't gonna let you niggas keep sliding like y'all ain't do nothing, like y'all such good guys. Y'all ain't no motherfucking good guys. Y'all niggas some fucking snakes. Straight up, y'all some motherfucking snakes. You dig what I'm saying?
So let me get this straight. He goes street, Birdman goes street, and y'all didn't really care. Like, this got the smell of he did it to himself. And that's why y'all ain't care in the beginning. If it's war, it's war. But when somebody don't listen, it's their war. If it's a bag on somebody's head and the first person that they call don't do it, they can reference somebody else or just say it's the next one up. Or some people will probably hear it and be like, yeah, bro. Yeah, I want in on that. I want in on that one. Hell yeah. Let's get it cracking.
Reason is you niggas instead of been playing in my motherfucking face. You know, when I came home from jail, I linked back up with y'all and started releasing some music. And Baby, aka Birdman, reached out to a nigga through GDP. And you know, we talked on the phone for like an hour, and it was like, yeah, this, that, and the other. Yeah, man, I want to finish my career the way I started with y'all. Y'all like my little brothers, you know, this, that, and the other. Man, I want y'all to come do this Cash Money reunion with me in the Superdome, man. I'm gonna shoot y'all 10 racks, bro. Just give me a minute, I'll call y'all back. But it's on, man. Y'all in the show. Me knowing who he is and how he been with me all these years, I didn't believe him far as I could throw him. But my little dog latched on to that shit. Y'all latched on to that shit, and he believed it. You know what I'm saying? But you know, at the end of the day, me and y'all two different people. So, you know, I'm a street nigga, me, man. If you want to make me out of believe and shoot me to deposit, then I know we locked in. So lo and behold, man, when it's time for the shoot the deposit, this nigga stopped answering the phone. And I'm like, man, what the fuck? Why is you even playing with me, man? I didn't call you. I didn't reach out to you. I wasn't bothering you. I'm doing my own thing. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to keep doing music, stay active because I love to do music and I'm good at it. You call me with this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just tired of nigga playing in the nigga face. You know, all that old hoe ass shit. And I'm going to hold you niggas accountable, man. You dig what I'm saying? I'm holding you niggas accountable. Y'all responsible for my nigga debt. And I ain't going to let you niggas keep sliding like y'all ain't do nothing, like y'all such good guys. Y'all ain't no motherfucking good guys. Y'all niggas some fucking snakes. Straight up. Y'all some motherfucking snakes. You dig what I'm saying? And I ain't about to stand here and keep on letting that secret go by. The secret is out. I'm spilling it. I'm saying what these scary ass niggas in the city scared to say.
Man, I know y'all, I had the little mic and everything. I heard the audio feedback. Nah, I'm cool. This all about music, bro. How is it your little soldier, your little juvie, your little wine, your little twin, how is it that he was able to get smoked? You on people's heels and bumpers and everything like that. You find out not too long that, hey, Birdman then got a card for the buddy and for Beazle, and next thing you know, it's all bad from there. And you on feet, you over there looking and searching and hunting stuff down. Man, come on, bro. Like, what are we supposed to believe here? We really supposed to believe you, dog? Nah, Dick, I ain't with that one. So let's just see a little bit more, because then he starts to get disrespectful towards other individuals. And it seemed like he got a bit of a gripe. But I'm going to bring it on down. Listen to the rest of this stuff. Check it out.
My second fuck you shout out goes to Juvenile. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know. Tech lost his fucking mind, huh? Yeah, but let me tell you why I'm saying fuck Juvie. I reached out to Juvie and was like, man, look, my album about to drop. Just make me a little quick 30-second video saying, yeah, man, y'all go fuck with my nigga Tech 9, got a new album, temperature check, blah, 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 blah. You ignored my phone calls, you ignored my inboxes, and you turned right back around and did the exact thing that I asked you to do for me, and you did it for Wayne. This shit here personal, because I just defended this nigga here. My third fuck you goes out to BG. And the reason why I'm saying fuck you, Jizzle, is because I reached out to you to do the same thing for me, nigga. All I said was make me a quick video saying, yeah, my nigga Tech, blah, 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 coming out, da, 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 da. And that was that. That shit ain't cost you nothing, man. That shit wouldn't have cost you nothing but a couple of seconds out of your day.
We gon' drag them up and sober, don't they body in a banana, even know the running next saying that you and Chopper City. Sober, don't they body in a banana, even know the running next saying that you and Chopper City, boy.
Now, is it possible all of this stuff is true? It is. Now, what they're saying about Tech is Tech got bad health. He got a bad liver, bad kidney. He on his way up out of here. He on a donation list. That's what he said in the beginning of the video. I just didn't want to put that in there because it just seems a little bit morbid. Now, y'all know what this sounds like a little bit? Like Keefe D. Remember when Keefe D came out? Well, y'all don't remember, but when Keefe D came out, he had cancer. He thought he was on his way out. He was trying to sell his book, make some money, get that to his people, blah, 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 push some more stuff, right? Then Keefe D just keeps on miraculously living. The next thing you know, Keefe D ran his mouth so much, he got hit with the murder. Now, Tech say he gonna have a second video, but based off of this one right here, I'm not seeing it. Now, if Bees will come out and say, hey, yeah, all of this stuff is true, I did it, then we'll see. But as it stands right now, bruh, I ain't gonna hold you. I ain't gonna hold you. This just don't sound right. It's parts of this story where if you was really standing on business, bro, there's no way you're gonna do business with Birdman unless you're trying to put four in the back of his head. Unless you're trying to line him up like Connect Four. Bow, 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 bow. You know what I mean? Well, bow, bow, bow. Whatever the hell. Y'all play Connect Four. Can't none of y'all see me anyways. I'll whoop all y'all on Connect Four. Come see Seti Nash. But back to it. Not seeing it, bro. Not seeing it. Not saying what he's saying isn't true. I'm just not believing it. It's too many things going on with money that's afterwards. You try to say, F this person, F that person. Why are you doing business with people who are still helping produce money for baby? This makes zero sense. Then you talking about you ain't scared and all that and blah, blah, blah and all this stuff. If Birdman that ruthless still, you be gone. If his reputation is what his reputation is perceived to be, you will no longer be here. So I ain't gonna hold you. I'm calling cap on this story. Now, is it possible it could be true? It could be, because I ain't from New Orleans. And I ain't gonna hold you. I ain't kicking in New Orleans like that. Now, you just said Baton Rouge. Hey, yeah, all right, cool. Then I can go, I might have a little bit of, you know what I mean? But as far as it go, we'll see, man. Terrence Gangster Williams made a video about this, so I'll be sure to react to it. I'll probably put it on the Reloaded channel. But other than that, to me, this is where the story gets a little wild. I don't see how somebody killed my little homie, especially my youngin', and next thing you know, I'm still willing to do business with the man who had him killed. Now, part of that story, he can come out and say, well, it was his war. He the one who went over there and didn't listen and shot up Birdman cars. Pardon me, shot up. He said 2 or 3, then he dropped it to 2. So he the one who shot up Birdman cars. But the story goes, if you with me right or wrong, and vice versa. If you right or wrong, I'm still with you, regardless of anything. Everybody has a story of where their homeboy was dead ass wrong, and they still had to back them up. And then when they get around them, then that's when they start chastising them and telling them about how wrong it is. But y'all let me know if y'all believe this. We got a T Grizzly video that just dropped, man. It is what it is. So, hey, I'm not and there's people in the comments talking about, oh, Seti Nash, this police is hell. The police already wrapped up their research, already did what they did. Ain't nothing I can do to add fuel to the fire. So, hey, it is what it is. Share to keep your people aware. Subscribe, turn on bell to notify, and I will catch y'all in the next one.
Sun rooftop, digging in the scene with the gangster leaning up. And we ain't coming down, see on my face that smile, see on my head that's crown, top of the world, top of the town, baby.
I moved up the hood that had the church on the corner where I sit and talk shit all day cause I wanna. And on top of that, wasn't none of y'all gonna do nothing but keep running your mouth and keep frontin'. Go ahead and say something. I'll wait. I ain't gonna wait too late, cause in a minute I'm escape. Cause there is no debate. No, it's not an option. You gotta keep the clock watch.
Sun rooftop, digging in the scene with the gangster leaning up.